Chapter 236. Phew. At the end of his morning exercise, Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of foul air and shook his head with a wry smile. To him, this was something he had expected. How could one be able to find the right direction and achieve success on the first try? In fact, ever since Lu Qing found out that the Jindan in his body came from the lost martial arts sect cultivation, he had put in a lot of effort to gather information about it. However, the information he could find on the internet was too mysterious and hard to believe. For example, in a small cultivation fan exchange forum, there was a guy named Thompson who had developed hysteria due to his practice and almost became a cripple. He only recovered after a long time. Without a corresponding martial arts reference, Lu Qing's attempt to grasp the characteristics of cultivation through the Jindan was like a blind man groping for an elephant. It was difficult for him to gain anything of value. At most, he could deepen his understanding of the concepts of frost, virokana, and starry sky. Naturally, there was no way for him to integrate the knowledge of cultivation and open up his own path. Sigh, it's been several months since Master's old friend obtained the Longhu Immortal's legacy. Why hasn't he achieved anything? Lu Qing complained in his heart. He packed up his things and prepared to go home for breakfast. If he still couldn't grasp the characteristics of cultivation, then he decided to use the simplest, crudest, and most effective method. That was to completely follow the orthodox martial arts path and treat the Jindan as a supernatural energy fountain. Through time and time again, he would completely absorb it and strengthen his own supernatural abilities of frost and flame. As for the combination of supernatural abilities and martial arts, there were too many references. The predecessor planted the tree, and the successor reaped the shade. It was half the work, but twice the effect. If there's no other way, then so be it. Jindan, who knows what it is? Lu Qing's thoughts fluctuated and he sighed slightly. At this moment, he suddenly had an absurd association based purely on the literal meaning of the word. Jindan Danqi state they are all Dan. Could it be that there are some similarities? As soon as this whimsical idea came into his mind, it was like a flood breaking through a dam. It was endless and couldn't be stopped no matter how hard he tried. The specific meaning of the Danqi state is that the strength of the whole body is transparent and smooth, intertwining with the spirit, qi, and blood. It's like a Dan. Every punch and kick can mobilize the strength of the whole body to the greatest extent and can be controlled with extreme precision. There's absolute reaction, so it's called the human body Big Dan. The most powerful of all is force concentration, which condenses the strength, qi, blood, and spirit into a point and unleash. Master's description, it's round and bright. Jindan, I still don't know what it is, but from my senses and observations over the past few months, I've discovered that it perfectly matches the description of round and bright. It balances itself and forms a universe of its own. It's like a supernatural ability, a material product formed by the condensation of physical invulnerability or a shield, intent, and spirit. It has the duality of matter and spirit. Can I imitate the Jindan or use it as a fulcrum to complete my force concentration? With the experience of force concentration, I can find and condense my own martial arts will and rely on it to repeat the process. Can I become a Real Dan state? Lu Qing thought aimlessly. Gradually, he had a general direction and was filled with the passion to try again. This time, his train of thought didn't involve the characteristics of cultivation. It was purely imitating the operating rules of Jindan. Well, I'll try again tomorrow morning. Failure is the mother of success. With his longing resolved and his feelings nourished, Lu Qing also had a direction to improve his martial arts. When he stood in front of Zhang Qiufan, Yao Ruiwei, and the other students again, he was really glowing. He was in a good mood from inside out. Wu Ting smiled and asked, Coach Lu, did something good happen to you yesterday? Yeah. Lu Qing answered with a smile. Then will you go easy on me today? I'm so tired after the last training. My whole body is sore. Wu Ting seized the opportunity. Yeah, my legs were shaking when I walked yesterday. Yao Ruiwei, the little fatty, quickly agreed. Lu Qing maintained his smile and answered. That's why you don't train often. You'll get used to it after more training. Don't worry, I'll be worth every penny you pay. Ah. Wu Ting, Zhang Qiufan, and the others all let out disappointed sounds. Then, under Lu Cheng's guidance, they began to calm down. When it came to the formal training, Lu Cheng realized how difficult it was to teach the half-grown kids. After a little more than a day, 8 out of 10 of the basic stances they had learned were not up to standard. They had to be explained and corrected again. The only two who were still okay were Li Lei and Wu Ting, who could barely remember the content of the previous lesson. Fortunately, Lu Qing knew that they only wanted to strengthen their bodies. As long as they could maintain the amount of training, they would pass. He didn't have high expectations, so his mood wasn't affected. After correcting them one by one, he stood at the side with his hands behind his back. He concentrated on tightening and compressing his muscles, creating a moderate amount of vibration. Together with the erosion of the medicine, he polished his muscles and fascia. Suddenly, he heard hurried footsteps and a commotion at the door. Turning his head, he saw Qin Rui's excited and uneasy face. "What's wrong?" Lu Qing asked, puzzled. Qin Rui lowered his voice and said, "The selection for the preliminaries is about to be finalized. Today, Chairman Wei will bring the person who has already been selected to visit the martial arts school. Whether or not I'll be selected to participate in the special training will depend on later. The selection of the team must be approved by the chief." "Ha, who's the person?" "You'll be fine if you perform well," Lu Qing asked curiously. Qin Rui answered in distress, "A professional ninth pin fighter named Li Tianming. He's a disciple of a family sect in our city. He's very talented and got a ninth pin certificate at the age of 20. He went to Gaofan to develop. Their sect has a good relationship with Mingwei. In our martial arts school, other than Senior Dai, it's hard to say who will be selected. Isn't there still Chairman Wei? He won't make it too obvious." Lu Qing comforted him. "If you make a breakthrough in your still stance this month and perform well in the youth tournament, Chairman Wei won't see it." "Yes. At the end of the day, strength is the most important." Qin Rui nodded vigorously. At this moment, the noise approached. Wei Renjie, with his hair slicked back, walked over with Chu Weikai, Dai Linfeng and the others. Beside him was a young martial artist in his 20s. His face was thin, his eyes were small and sharp, and his qi and blood were so vigorous that they almost materialized. He looked a little complacent. Wei Renjie glanced at the VIP class in front of him and smiled. "Ting Ting, are you practicing martial arts here?" Wu Ting stopped what she was doing and smiled obediently. "Uncle Wei, my dad likes to be busy. He's worried that I'll learn bad things during the holidays, so he sent me here." Lu Cheng was stunned. He didn't expect Wu Ting's family to have a good relationship with Wei Renjie. But then again, according to Qin Rui, the VIP class wasn't a place that could be registered with money. "It's good to practice martial arts. It strengthens your body. How is it? How do you feel?" Wei Renjie asked kindly. Wu Ting nodded quickly. "Pretty good. Our coach is awesome." "Your coach?" Wei Renjie turned his head and looked at Lu Cheng. After a moment of shock, he recalled the past and smiled. "You're Lu Cheng, right?" "Yes. Chairman, you still remember me?" Lu Cheng replied with a smile. At this moment, Li Tianming's eyes also looked over. His pupils suddenly shrank. He didn't expect to see a young martial artist with vigorous qi and blood in the Gushan Martial Arts School. Ordinary people like Wei Renjie wouldn't think much of it. At most, they would think that Lu Cheng looked very energetic and tough. But in the eyes of martial artists with similar experiences, it was obvious what it meant. At this stage of the body refining state, the strength of martial artists was like a firefly in the night. It was so bright and so flamboyant that it couldn't be hidden. "What does this mean?" Li Tianming looked at Chu Weikai in surprise. He saw that this old man with deep wrinkles was also looking at him. His smile was amiable and his eyes were meaningful. "How can I not remember? My idea for special training came from your opinion." Wei Renjie laughed. "Is it summer vacation? Why are you here as a coach?" "Part-time job." Lu Qing answered honestly. Good. It's good to be self-sufficient." Wei Renjie didn't say much. He walked around the VIP class area and walked towards the stairs surrounded by people. When the area was almost out of sight, Li Tianming couldn't help but look back at Lu Cheng. How could he not be cautious when he found a martial artist at the peak of the body refining state in a martial arts school that he didn't have a good relationship with? But Lu Qing didn't care at all. He didn't even think about competing for the preliminaries. It's a pity that Chairman Wei isn't a martial artist. He can't see how strong you are. Qin Rui sighed regretfully. He strode forward and caught up with the group. After the tour, the few people with the highest status sat down in the office on the third floor. Li Tianming glanced at the summer martial arts class registration list on the table. He pretended to pick it up casually and flipped through it. VIP Class 3, Coach Lu Qing, Professional 9th Pin. Lu Qing. Chairman Wei called him Lu Qing just now. Li Tianming put down the list and took out his phone while listening to Wei Renjia's long speech. A professional 9th Pin martial artist could more or less find the competition videos online. Chu Weikai glanced at his actions and smiled faintly. Lu Qing, Professional 9th Pin. After typing these words, Li Tianming put his phone on silent mode and browsed through the information. He randomly clicked on a video. At the beginning, his expression was still normal. But as he watched, his expression changed and his body couldn't help but tremble. Wei Renjie ended his speech and looked at Li Tianming with a smile. Tianming, what do you think after watching the young talents of Xiushan? Do you have the confidence to take on the challenge of the preliminaries? He was inviting Li Tianming. Li Tianming suddenly woke up and looked at Chu Weikai subconsciously. He saw the smile on Chu Weicai's face. Li Tianming took a deep breath and answered stiffly. Chairman, I don't have the confidence. Huh? Wei Renjie was stunned. What kind of answer is this? I was just asking out of habit. Li Tianming forced a smile and said, I've thought about it seriously. I'm still too weak to win glory for Xiushan. Chairman, I'm sorry to let you down. If I agreed to be the leader, Gushin Martial Arts School would definitely find an excuse to challenge me. And I really don't have the confidence to face that guy just now. Wei Renjie was still calm. He maintained his composure and asked seriously, Are you sure? Yes. Li Tianming answered with a red face. After the exchange, he left Gushin Martial Arts School, as if he had escaped from a tiger's den. Looking at Li Tianming's panicked back, Lu Qing pulled Qin Rui and asked thoughtfully, Chairman Wei, why did you decide to visit today? My master invited me. Qin Rui didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Lu Qing laughed and shook his head. He didn't say anything else. Master, this trick is really useful. After watching Wei Renjie leave, Dai Linfeng saw that there was no one around and said excitedly, In the future, if we meet any ignorant professional 9th Pin who wants to be the leader, we can invite them to visit. Lu Qing doesn't want to do that, but others don't know. Chu Weikai sighed and said, This method can only be used once. Do you think Lu Qing is stupid? Can't he see through it? We can use his prestige a little and think about our relationship with him. He will turn a blind eye and let it go with a smile. If we do it again and again, what does he think he is? Dai Linfeng nodded and said sincerely, Master, I understand. Yes, we have to seize the opportunity and try to get the professional 9th Pin who is close to us. Sigh, only an experienced person like Master can accurately grasp the limits of the previous method. Chapter 237. Lu Qing, who had nothing to do in the afternoon, went home early. He was chatting with Yan Zhika on his phone while watching variety shows on the sofa. When night fell, he found that his mother was not home. The dinner they had planned was still in his imagination. Hello Mom, where have you been? Lu Qing, the left-behind child, took the initiative to call. Qi Feng was surprised. Didn't I tell you? No. Lu Qing answered blankly. Qi Feng laughed dryly. Oh, I'm used to you studying outside. Used to what? Used to not having a son like me? Lu Qing covered his face and sighed. Qi Feng continued. Feifei has been playing in our house for a few days. Your aunt urged her to go back. I thought it would be a waste if I didn't use it since I helped someone take over for a few days. So I decided to send her back. I don't want to embarrass your aunt if anything happens on the way back. Qing, you and your dad can settle it by yourselves tonight. I can sleep in my room tonight? Lu Qing was delighted. He asked, Mom, when are you coming back? The day after tomorrow. I'll go to your grandpa's house tomorrow and get some homegrown vegetables. Qi Fong started nagging Lu Cheng to come over and spend time with his grandparents on weekends when he was not at the martial arts school. After listening to his mother's nagging, Lu Cheng immediately sent a message to Yenjika, saying that he was abandoned by his mother and had no dinner. Yenjika replied with a few pictures of the food she was enjoying without sympathy. Don't mention it. I'll help you eat. After a while, Lu Jisheng opened the door and entered the house. He saw Lu Cheng sitting on the sofa with the lights off and the TV off, playing with his phone. His face was lit up by the flickering light of the screen. You young people can't live without your phones. Lu Cheng's father shook his head and sighed. He turned on the lights and the whole house was lit up. Dad, Mom went to Aunt's house. We'll settle the dinner by ourselves. Lu Cheng looked up with his phone in hand. Lu Jisheng pushed his gold-rimmed glasses. I know. I'll cook. As he spoke, his voice suddenly came to a halt. Lu Cheng was stunned. He took a deep breath and said, How about we go to Grandpa's house? Okay. Lu Jisheng made a prompt decision, as if he had been waiting for this suggestion for a long time. The father and son did not need to pack up. They called Lu Debong and left immediately. On the way, they stopped to buy soy sauce duck and sliced chicken as extra dishes. When he entered his grandfather's house, Lu Cheng suddenly felt that the atmosphere was not right, because there were guests. A man and two women were sitting in the living room. They were chatting with Lu Debong, Lu Jiqiang, and Lu Yanwei, while Grandma and second aunt were busy preparing dinner in the kitchen. Jisheng, you're here. Come and take a look. Do you still remember Zijuan from old Zhao's family? He's doing well now. He's the deputy director of the police station on Feixia Road. Lu Debong smiled and pointed at the only man among the guests. Zijuan, I remember you. When we were young, we always played together. Every time we played a game of cops and thieves, he always wanted to be the police. Now he is really a police officer. Lu Jisheng was pleasantly surprised to see his childhood playmate. Old Zhao's family had been neighbors for a long time. Zhao Zijuan was in his 40s. He had a square face, short eyebrows and heavy eye bags. He stood up and patted Lu Jisheng. Jisheng, you still look like a scholar. Back then, whenever I was naughty, my father would use you as an example to lecture me. He said that he would be satisfied if I was half as good as you. Other people's children. Lu Cheng silently summarized for Zhao Zijuan. The other two were ladies, but he didn't pay much attention to them. He just glanced around and found a girl in her early 20s with half of her hair in a bun. She looked quiet and uneasy. His cousin Lu Yanwei didn't have his usual eloquence and seemed to be restless. Well, it's not a meeting between old neighbors. It's a blind date. Lu Cheng suddenly understood. He walked to Lu Yanwei with interest and patted him on the shoulder. This was the first time he had encountered a blind date. It seemed that Lu Cheng's ambition scared second uncle and the others, so they sped up the blind date. They came directly to him without making any arrangements. Lu Yanwei looked at his cousin sadly, and did not dare to say anything. This is my wife Huang Kun. This is my maid Zhao Qian. She is a language teacher in number 3 primary school. Is that your son? After catching up, Zhao Zijuan introduced his family. Lu Jisheng smiled. Yes, Lu Cheng. He is still studying. Is he in university? Where do I read it? Zhao Zijuan asked casually. Songqing University, Lu Jisheng answered proudly. Very good. He is like you in this aspect. Zhao Zijuan did not ask more about Lu Cheng, because he was not the main character today. After they sat down, they continued to chat. Their topics were focused on Lu Yanwei's current job, Zhao Qian's situation, and Lu Jiqiang's previous canteen contract. Lu Cheng could tell that his second uncle had been repeatedly reminded that he would not use a second sentence if he could answer with one sentence, so as to avoid accidentally saying something hurtful. They talked from before dinner until dinner. Lu Cheng did not say a word and played the role of a normal person eating meat, chicken, duck, pork ribs, and eggplant diligently. The male and female protagonists were robbed of the limelight by their parents, so they could only answer questions in silence. Lu Cheng could feel the awkwardness between them even with his toes. Well, he tested absolute reaction this morning and found that there was no such thing. Was it by accident that he caught the thief? That's not right. That feeling was very obvious. I was in a deep sleep at that time, but I was awake during the test. Was that the difference? Lu Cheng, who was lost in his thoughts, found the atmosphere a little cold and subtle. It seemed that the Zhao family was not satisfied with Lu Yanwei's situation. After dinner, Zhao Zijuan did not stay long. He said that he had something to do and left with Huang Kun and Zhao Qian. He did not let Lu Jiqiang and Lu Yanwei see him off. After the guests left, the Lu family fell into a short and depressing silence. After a few minutes, Lu Cheng's second aunt, Wang Lily, hit Lu Yanwei and said with a sobbing voice, 2 or 3 years ago, when our family was still strong, would old Zhao not like you? Wei, people have to accept their fate. Some people are destined to be rich, and some are destined to live a stable life. Don't worry about it. Work hard and make progress. Lu Yanwei pursed his lips tightly and said nothing. He stood there stubbornly, his round face full of gloom. Well, don't talk about it. Let him do whatever he wants. We can't afford it anyway. Lu Jiqiang shouted. His hair seemed to be getting whiter and whiter. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have come for dinner. Lu Qing felt a headache. He looked at his father and found that he felt the same. Even an honest official can't solve a family matter. It was his second uncle's problem, so he couldn't get involved. Don't talk about it. You can do whatever you want. The old master waved his hand and sighed. He walked back to the sofa and sat down, watching TV in silence. Lu Cheng's grandmother and second aunt started to clean up the table. Lu Jiqiang sat on the single sofa. Lu Yanwei wanted to say something but couldn't. He walked back to his room gloomily. Dad, I'm going to talk to my brother, Lu Cheng said in a low voice. Go talk to him. Lu Jisheng knew that his son had matured quickly in the past half year, so he nodded with relief. Lu Cheng knocked on the door and entered the dark room. He sat on the computer chair and looked at Lu Yanwei, who was lying on the bed. Brother, what do you want to do this time? He had heard him mention it before. Lu Yanwei said sullenly, I used to run a restaurant. I saw that the takeout business in Xioshan is booming, so I want to open a restaurant that doesn't have a shop. It won't cost too much. Speaking of this, he opened his mouth. He sat up and said in pain and confusion, Chung, do you know what's the most painful thing for a person? It's that I can't see any hope. I go to work on time every day and earn 2,000 or 3,000 yuan a month. I won't starve to death, but I can't see any hope. Today is the same as yesterday, and tomorrow will be the same. I want a house, no. I want a car, no. I don't know when I can earn enough money with this little salary. Should I rely on my parents? I don't want to suffer, but I don't want to be like this for the rest of my life. Lu Qing listened quietly and thought that if he was in this situation, he would be in the same pain and struggle. But you can't just do it casually, right? You have to do some research and see the prospects before you do it. Lu Qing said in another way. Lu Yanwei was stunned and said, I think it can be done. Many people in our company order takeout. You can't just rely on your feelings. Lu Qing complained and took out his phone to ask his life coach, Coach Yan. Yen Zheka replied with both hands supporting her chin. I haven't done this kind of research. Since your cousin wants to do it, he must do a good job of positioning and investigation. For example, where is the takeout area he is targeting, how many restaurants there are, and whether they are popular. Lu Qing translated her suggestions into his own words and told his cousin. Lu Yanwei, who only had high school education, was stunned. In the end he said, Qing, you know this? I don't know, but some of my classmates do. Lu Qing answered proudly. Coach Yan is awesome. Well, I'll figure out these things first. Lu Yanwei suddenly found that he had no idea at all. He had taken it for granted before. Ningshui, Qi Yan's house. Qi Yunfei was lying on the bed, watching a video leisurely with her legs crossed. Sister, what are you watching? Chen Xiaoxiao walked in while drying her hair. Qi Yunfei laughed and said, Brother Lu Cheng's competition video, super handsome. Brother Lu Cheng? Competition video? Chen Xiaoxiao was confused. See for yourself. Qi Yunfei pushed the tablet in front of her. I'm drying my hair. Chen Xiaoxiao muttered. She stopped what she was doing and looked over. A few minutes later she said in surprise, "Is this really Brother Lu Cheng? How powerful and awe-inspiring." "Yes." Chi Yunfei held her chin and said happily, "I'm almost becoming a brother complex. If Ding Yanba is half as good as Brother Lu Cheng, I'll be satisfied." Her eyes were shining as she imagined the future. After leaving Grandpa's house, they took a car back to the entrance of the community. Lu Jisheng and Lu Cheng were about to enter when they suddenly saw a notice posted in a conspicuous place. Police Department Class A Wanted Order. Lu Jisheng read the title. Lu Cheng looked at the following content. 3 cases of family extermination. Zhan Xuming, on the run. Male professional 7th pin. Chapter 238. Professional 7th pin? Lu Cheng narrowed his eyes and looked up at the photo in the wanted poster. He found that Zhan Xuming had a baby face, a gentle face, and a gentle temperament. He didn't have the viciousness and cruelty of the murderer of the 3 cases of family extermination. A professional 7th pin fighter at the age of 32. Although he was not a god's favored son, and had no hope of reaching the physical invulnerability stage, he still had the possibility of reaching the inhuman stage. He belonged to the upper middle class in the martial arts world. No matter which big city he was in, he could live a comfortable life. Why would he take the risk and become a fugitive? Out of anger? A hero breaking the law with martial arts? Practicing a unique skill, and suffering from Qigong deviation? Many thoughts flashed through Lu Cheng's mind, but they quickly went back to normal and disappeared without a trace. For a fight at this level, he couldn't reach it even if he jumped up and stretched out his hand. There was no need to waste his energy. He just needed to remind his relatives and friends to keep it a secret and try to call the police later. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Is a professional 7th pin fighter very powerful? Lu Jisheng asked. He was very clear about the difference between professional martial artists and amateur martial artists. He also knew how terrifying martial artists in the upper 3 ranks were. However, for the rest of the ranks, he had no idea how big the gap between each rank was. Very powerful. It's not a problem for him to beat 2 or 3 of me. Lu Cheng explained to his dad with himself as a reference. If you see him, just ignore it and call the police when he's far away. I'm not stupid. If it were another fugitive of amateur 7th pin, I wouldn't dare to call the police. Lu Jisheng laughed and answered casually. You're right. I'm thinking too much. Lu Cheng shook his head and smiled. He didn't say more and walked home with his dad. After he took a shower and changed the sheets, he lay down and felt the softness and comfort. Suddenly he received a call from Yenjika. What's wrong? He didn't know what happened and asked nervously. We were chatting just now. Yenjika enjoyed the pure concern from the heart. She smiled and said, Can't I call you for nothing? Lu Cheng relaxed and chuckled. Did you miss me? Humph, you've become thick-skinned again. Yenjika pouted playfully. Did you see the arrest warrant? Yes, I did. What's the problem? Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. Ku specifically called to tell him about this matter. She definitely didn't just want to gossip. Yenjika stopped smiling and said, According to reliable sources, he fled to a nearby area. That's why there are so many wanted posters. Lu Cheng said thoughtfully, What's the matter with Zhan Xuming? Why were there 3 cases of family extermination? It's said to be revenge. Yenjika chose her words carefully. His parents were also martial artists. In his early years, they were forced to death by a local dance stage Mighty One for some unknown reason. After he became successful in martial arts, he always wanted to seek justice. However, the Mighty One was an elder of a province with deep political and business connections. He even had some connections with a physical invulnerability master. The case was delayed again and again with no progress. Many people looked for him, hoping that he could reconcile. Turn hostility into friendship. Lu Cheng could hear the indignation and disdain in his girlfriend's tone. He agreed with her and said, It's easy for those people to say that. So Zhan Xuming decided to take the risk? Yes, Cheng, don't laugh at me. I just put myself in his shoes and thought that if my parents were forced to death like this, I definitely wouldn't give up. Just like the idiom, I can't live under the same sky. Yenjika sighed and said. Zhang Xuming pretended to accept reality and softened his attitude. When the Mighty One let down his guard, he came in the middle of the night and killed his enemy's entire family of 11. Then he went all the way south, hoping to escape to the war-torn areas. However, the police department took this case very seriously, and specially sent a high-ranked Dan stage Mighty One with supernatural tracking ability and a criminal investigation expert to lead the arrest. They blocked his escape route several times and almost caught him last week. Is this only one case of family extermination? Lu Qing asked sharply. Yenjika took a deep breath and said, maybe because he was in a desperate situation and couldn't see any hope of escaping, Zhang Xuming had a mental breakdown and became crazy. During this time, he committed 2 cases of family extermination in a row, targeting martial artist families with deep political and business connections. Moreover, the victims were all innocent people who had nothing to do with him. At first, I sympathized with him and admired him, thinking that he had the style of an ancient hero. Vent anger? Vent. The closer he was to death, the crazier he became? Lu Cheng said worriedly. Your family should be careful too. His girlfriend's family was definitely a martial artist family with deep political and business connections. And Zhang Xuming had recently appeared in the surrounding areas. That's why I called you. My mom went on a business trip as planned, but she was worried that something might happen at home, so she asked Aunt Lu and her family to stay with us temporarily. Yenjika said pitifully. Aunt Lu will accompany me for my morning exercise tomorrow. I can't go with you and eat zongzi with you. This was what they had agreed on, and he was looking forward to it. However, it was all ruined by Zhang Xuming. 'Cause Aunt Lu was a professional 7th pin Mighty One. Lu Cheng was relieved and said, safety is the most important thing. I just feel sorry for that family of Zongzi. They missed the favor of the little fairy several times in a row. Yenjika was amused and her mood improved a lot. Her voice became gentle and she said in a low voice, then would you like to send Zongzi to the little fairy tomorrow? Of course. Lu Qing answered without hesitation. Disgusting. Yenjika laughed and scolded him. She said sweetly, Cheng, in fact, I have to cancel tomorrow's arrangement and postpone many things. I don't know when I can do it. Well, and then? Lu Qing was a little confused. What did Ka want to say? And then? Yenjika said shyly, idiot. What I want to say is. She suddenly lowered her voice and scratched Lu Cheng's ear. I do miss you. Beep. She hung up the phone as soon as she finished speaking, as if she was afraid that Lu Cheng would turn into Sadako and go through the phone screen. Beep, beep, beep. Lu Cheng smiled foolishly and recalled it again and again. He hated that he didn't have the habit of recording the call. At 5:00 the next day, Lu Cheng went to Xiaoshan No. 1 Middle School to practice, so that he could buy Zongzi and go to Backwater Lake later. He completed the daily practice step by step, and the internal vibration training with the medicinal soup. In the end, he set aside half an hour to imitate the operation pattern of the Jin Dan. Lu Qing calmed down and sensed the expansion and contraction of the bright nebula. Based on his previous experience, he gradually had a grasp of the operation pattern of the Jin Dan. Spin. The key word was spin. In general terms, the 2 contradictory forces of ice and fire repelled each other, and then transformed each other. Finally, they reached a delicate balance and kept spinning around a certain point. The reaction was the slow rotation of the vast nebula. In detail, the ice crystal rotated around the flame, and the flame rotated around the core of the nebula formed by the interaction. Layer by layer, it was like the movement of celestial bodies. Once the rotation stopped, the Jindan would definitely collapse with a violent explosion and completely collapse. Spin. To put it simply, let the qi, blood, spirit, and force rotate around a certain point to form a balanced and restrained Big Dan of the human body and complete the withdrawal attempt. This point should be my martial arts will. Lu Qing thought and had a rough idea. When I haven't found and formed my own martial arts will, I can use the Jindan as a fulcrum to experiment and see if it works. After analyzing that it wouldn't be too dangerous, Lu Qing calmed down and got into a good posture. Then he closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and qi. He focused all his spirit on the jindan to stimulate the qi and blood, and then used the qi and blood to guide the force. When his spirit synchronized with the operation of the jindan, his whole body suddenly shook, and he felt that the rotation of the jindan suddenly accelerated. Boom! His qi, blood, and force were stimulated, and then his spirit suddenly shrank inwards as if it was circling. His body strangely showed a sense of emptiness and stillness. The shrinkage was only temporary, and the force that was far from pure and penetrating quickly bounced back and spurted out, driving Lu Qing to punch forward. Bam! The air seemed to explode, and the pure force of the body stirred up a gust of wind. Lu Qing opened his eyes and looked at his fist, but didn't think about anything. Instead, he looked at the path on the left. At the moment when his spirit shrank, he had a strange feeling. Without relying on his ears or eyes, he felt that someone was coming from that direction. This was very similar to the experience of the absolute reaction, when he caught the thief. A few seconds later, Lu Qing heard footsteps. After a while, he saw a middle school student on a morning jog pass by. Someone is really coming. Lu Qing took a breath and murmured to himself. As for the absolute reaction from before, he more or less understood what was going on. When he was awake, many distracting thoughts interfered with the operation of the jindan, so it couldn't exert its own characteristics. When he fell into deep sleep and had fewer thoughts, it showed something similar to the absolute reaction, or even more powerful, similar to the ice mirror. He used to sleep in the dormitory at home, and beside Yinjuka. He didn't encounter any malicious things, so he didn't feel anything in his dreams until he encountered the thief. As for the feeling just now, it should be the result of the combination of this characteristic and the withdraw ability of the Dan stage. Lu Qing shook his head. He felt that after the withdraw ability, his body was sore and his head was swollen. He had to rely on the hot flow of the jindan to calm his tiredness. Breaking through to the Dan stage is not something that can be done in a day or two. Even if I use the jindan as a cheat to achieve the withdraw ability, I can't really rely on it to achieve the withdraw ability before the force in my body is completely refined and the exuberant qi and blood turns inward. Lu Qing warmed up his muscles and bones, feeling a little happy and a little sad. Well, I can't always rely on the jindan to cheat. I can't forget my original purpose. I'm using this experience again and again to understand and master the withdraw ability. Then I'll use the martial arts will as a fulcrum to master the unique force concentration. As for the martial arts will, I'm still at a loss. Lu Qing exhaled deeply, feeling that the Dan stage was still a long way to go. Succeed? I've just started. Chapter 239. After a few minutes of rest, Lu Qing jogged to the front gate of Xiushan No. 1 Middle School. Following the usual path, he found the stall selling zongzi with a cart, against the direction of the third-year students who were still in class. 3 white zongzi, 2 spicy ones and 1 brown sugar one. Okay. The stall owner was a middle-aged man with a limp on his right foot. He had a bright smile, but apparently he didn't recognize Lu Qing as the high school student who used to patronize him. Lu Qing took out his phone, took a picture, and sent it to Yinjuka. I'm working on it. I'm looking forward to it. Yinjuka replied. I'm waiting for you, Lu Qing smiled. After the stall owner finished, he paid the money and ran to Backwater Lake with the zongzi in his hand. He didn't take a taxi. It was now the morning rush hour. In recent years, Xiushan's economic development had been good. Many citizens had bought cars, and the old municipal roads could no longer meet this situation. Naturally, traffic jams were inevitable. That was why Qin Rui said that many roads in Xiushan were expanding, and many places were being demolished. Under such conditions, at such a time, and such a distance, Lu Qing felt that the number 11 bus was faster than the car because he had been sprinting at full speed. He ran a few kilometers like he was running 100 meters. Training and fun. When he arrived at the outskirts of the villa area, he stopped and sent a message to Yinjuka with a straight face. Hello, your exclusive delivery boy has arrived. Beep. Yinjuka didn't want to miss the message, so she didn't take a shower after the morning exercise. Now she picked up her phone and looked at it. When she saw this, she couldn't help but burst into laughter. Her face was like a flower as she quickly typed on the keyboard. Good. After replying, she raised her head and looked at Lu Xiaolin, who was sipping hot porridge. She pursed her lips and gathered her courage. Aunt Lu, Chung sent me something. I'll go and get it. Aunt Lu knew about her, so she had to show her sincerity. Yenjika's father was on duty last night and hadn't come home yet. Lu Xiaolin's husband went to the company after breakfast. Their child stayed in bed and planned to have lunch. There were only 2 of them in the living room and dining room. Chung. Lu Xiaolin put down the hot porridge and asked in confusion. Yenjika blushed. He's Lu Chung, my boyfriend. This was the first time she had mentioned Lu Chung as her boyfriend in front of the elders. At first, she felt a little guilty, but as she spoke, she felt a kind of certainty and joy. Lu Xiaolin came to herself and stared at Yenjika for a few seconds. She found that Yenjika didn't flinch or dodge. I'll follow you. Lu Xiaolin nodded slowly and added, it'll be fine after a few days. The current Ku really resembled the youngest uncle back then. The only difference was that one looked like a stubborn girl, while the other was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. At that time, she was still a child and didn't really understand. But now as a wife and mother, she understood very well. Okay. Yenjika nodded obediently. Thank you, Aunt Lu. The 2 of them went out of the gate of the community and crossed the road. Lu Xiaolin stayed a few steps away and did not approach. Because of the elders' stares, Lu Chung and Yenjika felt a lot of pressure and were quite uncomfortable. Lu Chung resisted the urge to hug the girl and hold her hand. He handed the dumplings to her and tried to ignore Lu Xiaolin's existence. Little fairy, please sign here. Little fairy. Yenjika looked back at Lu Xiaolin with a guilty conscience. Her white cheeks immediately turned red. If Aunt Lu heard this kind of self-boasting title, how could she raise her head in front of her in the future? Lu Xiaolin stood there quietly and observed the surroundings. There was no abnormality in her expression. Phew. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief and took the dumplings. She said in a low voice, it's so disgusting. What if Aunt Lu heard it? It doesn't matter if she heard it. I'm telling the truth. Lu Qing took the opportunity to sweet talk. Yenjika's eyes flashed and she rolled her eyes at him. Then she became emotional and said reluctantly, I should go back. I'll be fine after a few days. Just as she finished speaking, she suddenly heard a low thunder sound in Lu Cheng's body. How can you do internal vibration training like this? Yenjika blurted out. She found Lu Cheng's face turned red and was quite embarrassed. She suddenly realized. She covered her mouth and laughed, leaning forward and backward. Are you hungry? So hungry that it was like thunder. Yes. Lu Cheng answered with embarrassment. He was so focused on sending the dumplings earlier that he forgot about his share. Yenjika suppressed her laughter and said with half anger and half happiness, when you buy the dumplings, don't you eat some first? My brain short-circuited and I forgot. Lu Cheng said with a hollow laugh. Forgot. Yenjika repeated these 2 words in a low voice. She looked at the dumplings in her hand, and her eyes were full of tenderness. She secretly looked behind and found Aunt Lu was looking around and didn't pay attention to her and Lu Cheng. She took out a pair of disposable chopsticks, broke a dumplings, mixed some seasonings, picked up a piece and put it in front of her boyfriend's mouth. She hummed, Here, sister will give you a bite. While speaking, she turned her head and looked at the street tree next to them. Lu Cheng was surprised and happy. He put the dumplings in his mouth and wolfed them down. He said happily, delicious. Don't talk. Focus on eating. Yenjika blushed and quickly fed him. Fortunately, Aunt Lu was not looking at them now. After feeding him quickly, she pursed her lips and looked at Lu Cheng softly. She waved her hand and turned to Lu Xiaolin. Lu Cheng wanted to pull her back, but he had to force himself to watch her and Aunt Lu walking into the neighborhood. At this moment, Yenjika was so guilty that she didn't dare to look at Lu Xiaolin. She was talking about all kinds of irrelevant things. Why was I so bold just now? In broad daylight, in front of so many people, I took the initiative to feed Cheng. Lu Xiaolin listened with a smile, and answered a few words from time to time. She didn't seem to notice that they were whispering sweet nothings. Well, It seems that Aunt Lu respects privacy and deliberately ignored our interaction. Yenjika felt relieved and said happily, Aunt Lu, I'm going to take a shower. Lu Xiaolin nodded and sat on the chair in the bedroom. She asked with confusion, Your parents are not here. Why don't you just invite him in? It's not good to do that in public. That look just now. That look. Yenjika covered her face and rushed into the bathroom. I'm an ostrich. I'm an ostrich. When the sound of water splashing could be heard, Lu Xiaolin revealed a faint smile and whispered to herself, Little fairy. Young people nowadays. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Lu Cheng was chatting with Yenjika and browsing the forum when he suddenly received a call from Director Xing. Hello, Uncle Xing? His heart skipped a beat as he vaguely had an idea. Is it about Wang Su's case tomorrow afternoon, or Zhan Xuming's case? Xing Chengwu sighed and went straight to the point. Lu, Uncle Xing is here to ask for your help. What is it? Just tell me. Lu Qing always remembered other people's kindness. Have you seen the arrest warrant? Director Xing asked. It's about Zhan Xuming. But how can I help? Lu Qing answered frankly. Yes, I've seen it and asked people. I know what he did and what he did. Director Xing, who knew his master's background, was not surprised. He laughed and said, Just now someone called the police and said they saw Zhan Xuming on the street of the bar. We verified it and found that it's true. The high-ranked dance stage expert and the other members of the task force will arrive at midnight at the earliest. Uncle Xing, do you mind if I tell you the truth? I really want to help you, but Zhan Xuming is of professional 7th pin. I don't even know how to reach dance stage. I can't help you even if I want to. I'll be a burden to you. Lu Qing was shocked and said quickly. Zhan Xuming had appeared in Xiushan. After a year of experience and growth, Lu Qing didn't know how to refuse people anymore. He would help if he could, but if he couldn't, he knew his place and dared to say it. Director Xing laughed and said, Don't worry, Lu. How can I let you deal with Zhan Xuming? If something were to happen, how am I supposed to face your master? Then what do you mean? Lu Qing calmed down. Zhan Xuming's mental state is very dangerous now. I can foresee that he will continue to deal with the martial arts families with deep political and business connections. He will become crazier and crazier. But he is also very rational. Once the task force arrives, he won't stay for long. Director Xing said seriously, We've compiled a list of people who need protection. I'll take the lead and handle this matter myself. Lu, in a small place like ours, there are limited masters. Even if the police force is stronger than the martial arts circle, it's only a few times stronger. According to the list, I've even invited 2 seniors, but the number of masters is still not enough. You want me to join? How do I protect them? Lu Qing asked in confusion. Xing Chenggu nodded and said, Divide into groups and enter these people's houses to protect them. You'll be in charge of one group. Don't worry, I'll send 4 amateur first-pin police officers who are good at shooting to cooperate with you. I'll also approve the use of large-caliber guns and warning equipment. If you really meet Zhan Xuming, as long as you show your ability to not be defeated by him in 3 to 5 moves, he will definitely retreat. I'll be in charge of the support group and wait in the middle. If there's any movement, I'll be there immediately. Lu, I'll tell you the truth. If the situation is really dangerous, you don't need to care about others and retreat by yourself. With your strength, Zhan Xuming won't waste time chasing you. 4 amateur first-pin police officers who were good at shooting and had large-caliber guns were a big threat to professional 7th pin. Of course, the premise was that they could react in time. Lu Qing thought and asked in confusion. Uncle Xing, why don't you gather these people for protection? Everyone lives in the auditorium. With you leading the patrol, Zhan Xuming won't have a chance. This was the safest and most appropriate way. Well, I've also thought about this. First, it's already dark. I'm afraid Zhan Xuming will attack us halfway, when we're moving. Second, it'll make us seem too afraid of him. We'll be too useless and lose face. And it'll have a bad influence on society. They're all famous people. Director Xing smiled bitterly. Lu Qing estimated the degree of danger, took a deep breath, and said seriously, I'm fine with it. Where should I go? Ku had Aunt Lu and the backup police. If Zhan Xuming really attacked her, He would only die there. You go to Guomin's house. It'll be fine after tonight. Xing Chengwu had already made arrangements. Uncle Xing wants to thank you first. Guomin? Isn't he the big boss of my dad's factory? Lu Cheng was stunned. Chapter 240. Although Lu Jisheng and Qi Fong often complained that Guomin had made a lot of money during the bankruptcy of the original factory, despised that he liked to use his relatives to manage, despised that group of people who didn't know anything and still gave orders every day, but towards Guomin himself, the two of them were very grateful. This was because Guomin valued Lu Jisheng very much and gave him enough trust to let him display his skills without interference in the field of technology. This also allowed Lu Jisheng's father, who had been drifting for several years, to finally have a stable and generous income, which helped the Lu family out of the quagmire and into a well-off life. Okay, where is his home? Lu Qing came to his senses and asked. Lu Jisheng and Qi Fong would go to Guomin's house on holidays, but they always felt that it was not good to bring a child along. Lu Qing was happy and relaxed, and he was too lazy to go to a stranger's house to enjoy the discomfort, so he didn't know where Guomin's house was. Xing Chengwu didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "It's too troublesome to talk on the phone. I'll send you a text message. Lu, be careful. Protect yourself first." Yes, Uncle Xing. After hanging up the phone, Lu Qing thought for a while and called Yanjika. He didn't have any experience in security, so of course he had to ask the omniscient Coach Yan. The cheerful ringtone rang for a few seconds before the phone was connected. Lu Qing unconsciously turned the words into concern. "Ku, have the police arrived at your house?" "Yes." Yanjika's eyebrows and eyes curved. She slightly pursed her lips and lowered her voice. "Stupid Cheng, you always worry for nothing. As long as Aunt Lu is here, it doesn't matter whether the police are here or not." Speaking of this, she thought of something and asked subconsciously, "How do you know about this?" After a pause, she said again, "Uncle Xing told you? He won't ask for your help, will he? How can he ask for your help? You're still a student. How can he do this?" Listening to the girl's suddenly raised voice, Lu Qing was surprised by her keen observation and deeply felt the strong worry and fear. He hurriedly said, "Don't worry. With the cooperation of 4 policemen who are good at shooting, as long as I am not killed by him in one shot, it won't be a problem to keep myself alive. Do you think I can't even withstand one shot from a professional 7th pin fighter?" Yanjika pouted and said sullenly, "Of course I believe in your strength. The gap between professional 7th pin and 8th pin is not as big as that between 8th pin and 9th pin, but it's still very dangerous. If there's danger, you can run by yourself, okay? No, you can't, and you can't leave your back to the enemy." Among the ranks of professions, the 9th to the 8th was a threshold, the 6th to the 5th was a threshold, and the 4th to the 3rd was known as the Dragon Gate, the carp leaping over the Dragon Gate. Listening to the girl's nagging, Lu Qing felt warm in his heart. He smiled and said, "Silly Ku, I have experience. Moreover, with my strength, if he dares to use continuous outbursts to kill me at all costs, then I dare to seize the opportunity to counterattack. I'll take care of myself for you." "Fine." Yanjika sighed. "You're a warrior, so it's inevitable that you'll be in trouble." "Qing, wait a minute. I'll ask around for you. What do you need to pay attention to? You don't have any experience." "Smart Coach Yan, that's why I'm calling you." Lu Qing complimented him with a smile. "Well, you're smart enough to ask me." Yanjika bit her lips and said, "I have an uncle who works in this field. I'll send you a message later. Take your time, okay?" "Got it. I'll do as you say, Coach Yan," Lu Qing said and hung up the phone. At this time, Director Xing had sent a message with Guomin's home address and the phone number of the police team contact, Niu Zhen. Lu Qing breathed in and out to adjust his mood. He directly put on the martial arts suit and shoes and planned to go there in this way. This was the most suitable suit for fighting. It was better to be prepared. Before leaving the room, he remembered his master and quickly called him. It was the first time he encountered such a thing, so he was still a little nervous. "Go, you have to experience something like this." Geezer Shi yawned and answered casually, "A real martial artist can't grow by just relying on the challenge tournament. There are some scenes and some gains that can't be fully understood without experiencing them. This is the case for my generation, Warrior Sage, Dragon King and the rest. Your generation will be no exception. Lu Qing was slightly relieved and joked. Master, aren't you afraid that something bad will happen to me? I'm not your father. Why should I worry about you? This is not a high-ranked Dan stage, not a fighter with physical invulnerability, but a professional 7th pin fighter who has been running away for so long. You have 4 gunmen with 4 guns. If you can be killed by him, I'll forget about having you as my disciple. Gizershur mocked. You can't beat him, but I still think you can protect yourself. That's it, I have to hurry up and drink. My daughter and son-in-law are coming back. Hurry up and drink. Lu Qing suddenly felt that his life was worse than a jar of wine. He opened the door and walked into the living room. He said to Lu Jisheng, who was watching TV, Dad, Qin Rui asked me to practice with him, so I won't be back tonight. This kind of thing couldn't be said directly. He couldn't say that he had to work as a security guard at his boss' house, could he? That would scare his dad. You're still practicing at this late hour? Lu Jisheng stood up with the remote control and asked. The provincial youth tournament is at the end of the month. Lu Qing found a random reason. Lu Jisheng thought for a while and said, Cheng, I heard that some fighters are more indulgent and like to rely on their kung fu to mingle in society. You have to keep a distance from them. Dad, don't worry, I won't even look at them. Lu Qing smiled and replied. What I have to do now is much more dangerous than what they have to do. Unlike Qi Fang, Lu Jisheng didn't nag so much. He didn't say more after a few words of advice and watched his son leave. On the way to Guomin's house in the taxi, Lu Qing received a message from Yenjika. She gave him a long list of security precautions and lessons. In the end, she emphasized, Qing, you have to look very confident and calm. You look like a professional at first glance. In that kind of environment, everyone will be nervous and uncertain. When you can make a decision with confidence and firmly carry it out, they will subconsciously listen to you and won't dare to act rashly. This will save you a lot of trouble. Got it. Lu Qing replied. In the villa of the Guo family, 4 police officers had arrived, 2 men and 2 women. Guo Min and his wife brought their children, as well as their bodyguards and servants. There were 9 people in total. Guo Min used to be a fighter and started his business in iron ore. He had made a name for himself in the business world, and was doing very well. Now he was no longer as tough as before. Instead, he was fair and plump like a typical rich man. At this moment, although he had a bodyguard of professional 9th pin, Xie Tong, by his side, he was still nervous. He couldn't help but ask the police officer in front of him, Niu Zhen, Captain Niu, didn't Director Xing say that there would be a master in charge? When will he arrive? As a former fighter, he knew better than his wife, Wan Rongli, and his daughter, Guo Huairou, who helped to manage the business. Niu Zhen, who was transferred from the army, still had the temperament of a soldier. He stood straight and said, Mr. Guo, Director Xing just sent me a message saying that the master will be here soon. That's good, Guo Min repeated. Dad, it's all your fault. Yesterday, I said that we would go to Gaofun for a vacation. Guo Huairou complained. She was 27 years old, with a good figure and ordinary facial features, which she compensated with makeup. After graduating from college, she helped her father to manage the family business. She was so busy that she forgot to solve the problem of marriage. In the end, her parents gave birth to a younger brother 2 years ago. She hated him but couldn't do anything about it. Guomin combed his hair and sighed. I didn't expect Zhang Ximing to come to Xiushan. As soon as he finished speaking, the doorbell rang. Everyone was silent, and their hearts beat faster. Guomin was the first to recover. He asked in surprise, Captain Niu, is the master here? Let me see. Niu Zhen turned around and strode to the door. Through the camera and visual screen, he saw a young man in a martial arts suit standing outside. Isn't he too young? Niu Zhen called Lu Qing according to the number sent by Director Xing. After confirming, he opened the door. As soon as the door opened, he took a step back and felt the vigorous qi, blood, and fierce temperament of Lu Qing. What a master! Born in the army, he had seen many martial artists at the peak of the body refining stage. He no longer doubted and reached out with a smile. Hello, I'm Niuzhen. Director Xing should have mentioned me to you, right? Yes, I'll have to trouble you to cooperate with me tonight. Lu Qing responded politely. At this moment, Wan Rongli screamed. This is the master you were talking about? How old is he? I'm going to call Director Xing. Guo Huairou nodded. She felt that this master was too young and unreliable. Guo Min's martial arts had deteriorated, but his vision was not. He immediately reached out to stop her. Don't talk. He smiled and greeted Lu Qing, who was in a white martial arts suit with black edges. Friend, how should I address you? We're counting on you to take charge of the situation tonight. Chang Jiu, who was at the peak of the body refining stage, plus Ye Tong, for policemen with large caliber pistols, barely enough, of course. Lu Qing wouldn't reveal his name to avoid interfering with his plan. He nodded as a response, then looked around the living room. Mr. Guo, since Director Xing asked me to do this, I'll do my best to ensure your safety. I hope you can cooperate with me. Okay. Guo Min was stunned at first, then nodded vigorously. Lu Qing's expression turned serious. Tonight, everyone will sleep in the living room. Without permission, you're not allowed to leave the sight of the officers. How can we do that? Guo Huairou blurted out. You're here to protect us, not to torture us. Lu Qing said with a serious expression. Mr. Guo, you should know that climbing the second floor is like child's play for a dance stage expert. We're not as strong as you, so we won't split up to protect you. If you encounter Zhang Xuming in the bedroom on the second floor, even if we can detect it in time, he'll have enough time to kill you several times over. Guo Huairou paused. But we still have to shower, right? One by one, we'll use the bathroom on the first floor. The ladies will shower first, and the 2 female officers will watch from inside. When it's the men's turn, the male officers will follow them. Make sure you're not alone. Lu Qing's eyes were calm. Actually, I suggest you not to shower all day. Also, when you need to get the blankets and other things, don't rush in like a swarm of bees. Send a representative, protected by the officers and Mr. Guo's bodyguards. He gave out orders one by one, making Guo Min and Guo Huairou feel a sense of professionalism. Unconsciously, they followed his calm and confident attitude without arguing or throwing tantrums. After everything was done, everyone returned to the living room and settled down. Lu Qing looked at the time and said to Niuzhen, Yang Sha and the other police officers, from now on, you'll be divided into 2 groups. You'll rotate every 2 hours. Make sure you have a good rest. This is not an ordinary fugitive. Both physical and mental state are very important. You can't be careless. Okay. Niuzhen nodded. Since Lu Qing's arrival, he felt that he had a backbone and everything was in order. Although they were all good at shooting, they were not confident when facing a professional 7th pin expert. If there was no expert who could withstand 1 or 2 hits, they might not be able to hit him with only 4 guns. After listening to Lu Qing's instructions, everyone looked at him, wondering what he would be responsible for. Lu Qing walked to a chair and sat down. He closed his eyes and began to sleep. Sleep? Sleep. Guo Min and the others opened their mouths wide and felt nervous again. Wasn't this professional and reliable expert a bit unreliable? After a while, they heard Lu Qing's long breathing and sound sleep as if nothing had happened. The worry and nervousness in their hearts disappeared inexplicably, as if they felt a feeling called peace of mind. That guy might not care about their lives, but he definitely wouldn't joke about his own life. He dared to sleep directly without any vigilance, so he must have confidence and certainty. Everything seemed to be under his control. Influenced by Lu Qing's calmness, they were less nervous and no longer secretly panicked. Wan Rongli and Guo Huairou even felt sleepy. They curled up on the sofa and fell into a light sleep. In Yan's villa with professional guidance, they also gathered in the living room. It was easier to protect them by not sleeping separately. In the presence of outsiders, Yanjeka did not wear a nightgown, but directly put on a martial arts suit. She curled up her legs and covered herself with a blanket, lying on the sofa on one side. She was worried about the idiot who was not here, so she could not fall asleep. Logically speaking, with her fearless character, under the premise of Lu Xiaolan's protection and 4 policemen's vigilance in each corner, She should be able to sleep peacefully as usual as if nothing had happened. But now she held the phone tightly, not only wanting to hear it ring, but also afraid to hear it ring. At around 2 o'clock in the morning, except for Niu Jun, Yang Sha, and Guomin's bodyguard, Xie Tong, who were on duty in Guo's living room, the others were either asleep or drowsy. The surroundings were slow and quiet, and even the sound of insects could be heard. At this moment, Lu Cheng, who was in deep sleep, suddenly felt his heart palpitate. He opened his eyes and felt some kind of evil approaching. In that direction. He suddenly stood up, adjusted his muscles, and was in the most suitable state for fighting in an instant. Then he looked at the left window of the living room and said in a low voice, "He's here." "He's here?" Niu Jun and Yang Sha were shocked. Out of professional habit, they instinctively took out their pistols and dodged to the side, not huddling together so that they could cross fire. "He's here?" The other two policemen who were resting suddenly woke up. Although they were half a beat slower, they still skillfully got off the sofa and occupied a corner, blocking the window with their guns. "He's here?" Xie Tong was at a loss at first, but then he was cautious and got into position. "He's here." Guomin's face turned pale. His hands grasped the blanket tightly, and he unconsciously leaned toward Xie Tong. "He's here." Wan Rongli, Guo Huairou, and the others were awakened by the noise. They were shocked and scared, but they didn't dare to make a sound. They huddled together, holding each other's arms, and shivered. That maniac had really come? What should we do? What should we do? Outside the window of the living room, a black shadow had just approached. He sensed that the originally quiet target had suddenly come to life. The atmosphere was instantly tense, ready to explode at any moment. He immediately felt a tingling sensation on the surface of his body, and understood that it was the absolute reaction of being targeted by a dangerous gun. Shocked, he quietly took a few steps back and faced off in silence. Waves surged. After a few seconds, he realized that the person inside was still on guard. He immediately realized that the other party didn't notice it by accident. The invisible forces collided. The black shadow hesitated for a moment. Seeing that there was no chance, he decisively and quietly retreated from the area. At the same time, he whispered to himself, "The supernatural ability of prophecy?" In the living room of the Guo family, the inexplicable feeling was gradually fading away, and was no longer under his control. But at the last moment, he sensed the departure of the malicious intent. He closed his eyes and entered a meditative state. He tried to imitate the scene of deep sleep to use the sensing ability of the Jindan. But with his spirit and thoughts still intact, he could only faintly use a little. He couldn't use the absolute reaction from a distance like when he was in deep sleep. But no matter what, he was sure that the malicious intent had completely left the area. At this moment, Niu Jun and the others were staring at the window. The atmosphere was so tense that it was about to snap. At this moment, even if a mouse jumped out, it would probably die without a burial place under their concentrated fire. However, they still couldn't find any trace of Zhang Xuming. In this atmosphere, Lu Qing put away his arrogance and said as if nothing had happened, "He's gone." "He's gone?" Guomin, Niu Jun, and the others were confused and almost didn't react. Zhang Xuming left before he even showed up? Is this for real? Immediately after, they all had the same thought called anger. Are you King kidding me? You startled everyone for no reason. Made everyone aim at the window for a long time, and be on guard for a long time. And now you're telling us that nothing's wrong? That lunatic who destroyed the whole family came all the way here, and left before he even entered the door? Could it be that he misjudged and overreacted? In the midst of these thoughts, Guo Huairou and the others would have lashed out at him if they didn't consider that Lu Cheng was the backbone of tonight, and that the situation would be more dangerous without him. They had no choice but to swallow their anger and go back to their seats. Lu Cheng looked calm and said to Niu Jun calmly, "Call Director Xing and tell him that Zhang Xuming was here. Ask him to pay attention to the nearby families." But we didn't find anything." Niu Jun couldn't help but retort. Lu Cheng looked at him calmly and said, "Just report it as it is. He will make his own judgment. You don't have to help him make the decision." Niu Jun thought about it, and decided to report it to Director Xing just in case. The other side only replied briefly, I got it. At this time, they saw Luqing sitting down on the ground and sending a few messages before falling asleep again. Sleeping. Guomin and the others were numb, and even a little desperate. Yenjika tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Everyone thought that she was a timid girl who couldn't sleep because of fear, so they all comforted her. Suddenly, the phone in her hand rang, which almost made her heart stop beating. She hurriedly picked it up, and saw that it was from Luqing. Zhan Xuming was here, but we scared him away. He should be fine now. Phew. Yenjika heaved a long sigh of relief and said with fear and joy, Are you hurt? Don't be careless. What if he comes back? No, he ran away when he found that we were heavily guarded. Coach Yen, don't worry. I won't be careless. I will be on guard as usual and inform Uncle Xinghe. Why are you still awake? Luqing replied. Yenjika pursed her lips and snorted secretly. I didn't sleep well. I woke up as soon as there was a sound. It's all because of you, idiot. At 5 o'clock in the morning, Luqing woke up again because his phone was vibrating. He took it out and saw that it was from Director Xing. As soon as he picked it up, he heard the undisguised laughter on the other side. Little Lu, you have a safe night. You've made it through. The task force has arrived. That high-ranked dance stage expert has caught Zhan Xuming's tail. He can't do anything now. You can go back and have a good rest. See you in court in the afternoon. Okay. Luqing heaved a sigh of relief and quickly shared the news with Yenjika. Yenjika was finally relieved. Her eyelids started to fight, but she persisted and replied, Well, Cheng, I'm so sleepy. I'll sleep for a while and train in the afternoon. I slept well. I'll continue training later. Good night, no good morning. Luqing said with a smile. Then he put away his phone and looked around the living room. No longer serious, he smiled and said, The alarm has been lifted. You can do what you need to do. After he finished speaking, he didn't stay any longer. He took a big step forward, opened the door and left. After a moment of silence in the living room, Guohuairo couldn't help but complain. Captain Niu, what kind of expert did you find? Why is he so useless? That's right. Why are you so worried? I have to tell your bureau chief Xing. Wan wrongly twisted her sore neck. Guomin also smiled and said, It's okay. We don't have enough manpower. That's understandable. Just let it pass safely. It wasn't convenient for Niuzhen to respond to their complaints, and he hadn't received the next order yet. He could only listen to the Guo family's words with Yang Sha and the others. After a few minutes, he received a notice to open the window in the living room. Open the window in the living room? Niuzhen was confused by this strange order. He went to the window and opened it. He found that there were a few unfamiliar men in police uniforms outside. They were carefully inspecting something under the light of the street lamps. What's wrong? Niuzhen asked in confusion. Guomin, Guohuairo, and the others also squeezed in curiously. The leading unfamiliar policeman was very dignified. He frowned and muttered, Zhan Xuming has been here for at least a minute. But he didn't do anything. Zhan Xuming has been here for at least a minute? Zhan Xuming was really here. He even stayed for a minute. Niuzhen's mouth opened little by little. He looked at Guomin, Guohuairo, and the others in shock, only to find that they were also at a loss and frightened. Hiss. After a short while, gasps sounded one after another. Chapter 241. At this moment, two images flashed through the minds of Guomin, Guohuairo, and the others. The young man in a white martial arts suit with black edges solemnly but calmly shouting, He's here, at the calm window, and the casual, He's gone sentence. He's here, he's gone. It's actually true. Everyone by the window turned their heads and subconsciously looked at the door. The image of the young man in a white martial arts suit with black edges drifted into their minds. A true master never shows his true colors. Guomin sighed after a long time. Guohuairo also took a deep breath, and the words expert style appeared in her mind. Captain Niu, do you know the name of that guy? Guomin asked curiously. Niuzhen shook his head with a blank face. Director Xing only gave me his phone number. The head of the dragon but not the tail. During morning training, Lu Qing took the medicine soup step by step. He practiced the fine inner workings and polished his force. At the end, he borrowed the jindan again to try and understand the feeling of withdrawing. Once again, he gained a different experience from the previous day. Every new day. After breakfast, he came to the martial arts center. After half an hour in the strength training gym, Lu Qing saw Wu Ting yawning with dark circles under her eyes. Coach Lu, I was so scared that I couldn't sleep well last night. You should know that. Can you reduce the amount of training later? Wu Ting asked pitifully. Lu Qing looked at the other students and smiled. I know. Reduce the amount of training today by 2/3. When you're free, help me watch them and correct their movements. Teaching and learning were mutually beneficial. Okay. Wu Ting didn't expect that not only would she succeed in her request today, but she would also be assigned the task of little teacher. She was very excited and happy. When the training was about to start, she came back to her senses and asked in confusion. Coach Lu, you were invited too, right? Why are you still so energetic? The protector must be more tired than the protector. She didn't sleep well last night, but Coach Lu probably didn't sleep at all. I was invited, Lu Qing answered with a smile. But I slept the whole night. You're lying, coach. Wu Ting laughed in disbelief. Yao Ruiwei, Zhang Qiufan, and the other students looked at them in confusion, unable to understand the content of their conversation. They planned to ask Wu Ting during the break. What happened last night? At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Lu Qing left Gushan Martial Arts School after another round of training. He turned to a nearby crossroad and boarded Xing Chengwu's SUV. Lu, yours. Xing Chengwu handed over a bulging envelope. Uncle Xing, what is this? Lu Qing asked in confusion. Xing Chengwu smiled. Don't refuse the reward for last night. It was given by the country, not me. Due to the high level of danger, the reward was considered generous. Lu Qing pinched the thickness of the envelope and estimated that it was about 8,000 to 10,000 yuan. For a top professional 9th pin fighter, the price for a night's security was indeed crazy. But considering that the enemy was a professional 7th pin fighter of the Dan stage, it was reasonable. Why should he be modest when he had risked his life for the money? Lu Qing calmly opened the envelope and took out the bright red banknotes. He took a picture with his phone and sent it to Yan Zhika, who was training in the afternoon. I'm earning money from the country. Although they couldn't chat in time, he always wanted to share with his girlfriend. Director Xing understood the young people's habit of taking pictures. Without saying anything, he started the car and drove to the courthouse in the east of the city. After driving for a while, he asked casually, Lu, how did you scare Zhang Xuming away last night? He stayed outside the window for at least a minute. Niuzhen didn't say it clearly. Uncle Xing, do you know the ice sex enemy heart-freezing move? Lu Qing was quite mature in dealing with matters. He had long guessed that he would encounter such a question, so he calmly replied with a question. Yes. Xing Chenggu seemed to understand. You've mastered the martial arts derived from it? Lu Qing smiled bitterly. Lu Qing laughed bitterly. I can't say that I've mastered it. I can't use it during a fight. I can only barely use it when I've completely entered meditation. Last night, I used it to vaguely detect Zhang Xuming's approach and notified everyone to prepare in advance. This probably made Zhang Xuming feel that he didn't have a chance, so he retreated on his own. Uncle Xing, please don't tell others about this. Okay, I understand. No wonder Niuzhen said you were sleeping. Haha, the younger generation will surpass us in time. Director Xing shook his head and laughed. He changed the topic. Lu, you didn't tell Guomin your name last night? Lu Qing was stunned for a moment, then suddenly realized. Uncle Xing, you know? He knew Guomin was his father's boss, so he made the necessary arrangements. Professional habit, professional habit. Director Xing laughed. Your master asked me to take care of you. If I don't even know the general situation of your family, how can I take care of you? But you don't seem to be willing to reveal your identity in front of Guomin. I just feel that there's no need to mention it deliberately. It would be awkward. Also, if Boss Gua and the rest knew about this, I wouldn't be able to command them. Lu Qing answered honestly. That's true. Xing Chenggu laughed. Luckily, I only gave Nyojin your number and didn't mention your identity. I thought you would tell him yourself if you were willing. Lu Cheng was stunned. When he thought about it carefully, he realized how smooth and experienced Director Xing was. No matter how he looked at it, it was flawless. A real veteran. 10 minutes later, Xing Chenggu drove into the courthouse and parked beside the back building where there was no one around. As soon as he got out of the car, he led Lu Cheng straight into the building. They went through a special elevator and arrived at the 4th floor. Along the way, he had arranged for no one to wait. Let's go in. There are no outsiders. Xing Chenggu pointed to a room at the end of the corridor. Lu Cheng suddenly remembered Wang Su's fate. His heart couldn't help but feel heavy. He sighed subconsciously. Don't worry too much. Honestly, Wang Su won't be sentenced too heavily. Xing Chenggu patted him on the shoulder. Lu Cheng nodded slightly. He knocked on the door and waited for a moment before pushing it open. The process of testifying was similar to what he had expected. There were no bystanders, only the necessary judges. Through the guidance of questions, they made him repeat the process from beginning to end. Lu Cheng kept in mind that Director Xing had asked him to rush over to stop the crime. As for the rest, he didn't hide anything. After an unknown amount of time, he finally heard the sound of the door opening. When he left the room, the first thing he saw was the bright afternoon sun in July. In the process of silently following Xing Chenggu back to the SUV, Lu Cheng glanced at Wang Su's parents who had come for the trial. They looked much older than half a year ago. Although they were about the same age as his parents, they looked like they were almost 60 years old. Sigh. Lu Cheng sighed and leaned against the back of the passenger seat. He asked earnestly, Uncle Xing, can we leave after a while? Sure. Xing Chenggu didn't say much. He took out his phone and started to deal with official business. In the blowing of the air conditioner, Lu Cheng's thoughts fluctuated. He couldn't calm down for a long time. Right now, Wang Su was only 1 or 2 walls away from him. However, their fates seemed to have been fixed on today's bright sun and the dim mist of the first day of the new year. This is life. Time ticked by. Xing Chenggu received a call. He smiled and said to Lu Cheng, the sentence is 5 years in court. That's good. Lu Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. I'll find someone to watch him in prison. If he behaves well, he should be out in 3 years. He'll be only 22 or 23 years old then. There's still a lot to be done. Xing Chenggu started the car. Thank you, Uncle Xing. Lu Cheng thanked him sincerely. Xing Chenggu laughed and said, What are you thanking me for? It's almost dinner time. Come to my house. I didn't treat you last time. Okay. Lu Cheng didn't refuse, nor did he mention Xing Jingjing. He just called his father and told him that he would be back after dinner. Don't touch the pot that doesn't boil. Xing Chenggu had already arranged everything. After the call, he went straight to South Zhuangyuan Street. When he led Lu Cheng into the house, the food was almost ready. Mom, they're here. Dinner is ready. The tall Xing Jingjing tied up her hair and shouted to the kitchen. Lu Cheng changed his shoes and politely said, Hello, senior sister. At the same time, Xing Chenggu placed his majestic body between the two of them, trying to ease his daughter's emotions as much as possible. Xing Jingjing looked at Lu Cheng and didn't feel as impatient and uneasy as last time. She just said coldly, Ko has mentioned you to me. That's good, that's good. Lu Cheng didn't know what he was saying. Is this the preferential treatment of a best friend's boyfriend? Seeing that his daughter didn't have a big reaction, Xing Chenggu secretly felt relieved and hurriedly asked her to help serve the dishes. It was not that he didn't want to do something, but he felt that if he left his daughter alone with Lu Cheng, the harmonious and stable atmosphere would explode. Not long after, dinner started. Director Xing's wife, Auntie Ding, was very warm to Lu Cheng. She asked him all kinds of questions and praised him. Xing Jingjing ate quietly. When the atmosphere was at its warmest, she said faintly, He has a girlfriend. How do you know? Auntie Ding was stunned at first, and then asked in confusion. When did this girl become so close to Lu? Lu Cheng was startled. He was afraid that this girl would be unhappy and reveal the matter between him and Ko. Xing Jingjing said with a straight face, Ko said so. Lu Cheng's heart suddenly jumped. Then he heard Xing Jingjing add, They are classmates. I see. Xing Chenggu and Auntie Ding didn't know whether to feel relieved or disappointed. At this moment, the doorbell rang and the sound echoed in the room. Who is it? Xing Chenggu was used to unexpected visits. He shook his head and walked to the door. Lu Qing subconsciously looked over. When the door opened, he saw two familiar figures. His father's childhood friend Zhao Zijuan, whom he had met a few days ago, and his wife Huang Kun. He was the deputy director of the police station. It was normal for him to visit Uncle Xing. Lu Qing looked back thoughtfully. Zhao Zijuan looked inside and said with a smile, "What a coincidence. Director Xing, are you eating?" "What do you mean by coincidence?" "Old Zhao, let's eat together." Director Xing greeted them warmly. Zhao Zijuan's eyes swept across the table. Just as he was about to speak, his pupils suddenly constricted as a certain figure was reflected in his eyes. He almost forgot what he was going to say. Only when his wife, Huang Kun, pulled him did he wake up. He smiled and said, "No need, no need. We have already eaten. I just thought that it has been a long time since I came to visit you, old leader. Just sit for a while and leave." "Haha, it's good that you didn't forget your old leader." Xing Chenggu wanted to lead them to the sofa and sit down, but he saw Zhao Zijuan carrying something. He said with a straight face, "Old Zhao, what do you mean by this?" Director Xing was so intimidating that Zhao Zijuan didn't know what to say. Xing Chengwu's expression softened. "Old Zhao, take these things back. I know about your situation. You're my old subordinate. I'll definitely fight for you." Yes, Director Xing, Zhao Zijuan and Huang Kun didn't dare to stay for long. They immediately left. Xing Chenggu didn't ask them to stay. He watched them leave and then returned to the table. He smiled bitterly. The director of Flying Cloud Road has retired. Old Zhao has some ideas. When I was at the branch, he followed me for a few years. He's quite capable. Why wouldn't I consider him? Lu Qing smiled and didn't say anything. After leaving Director Xing's house, Huang Kun looked at the things in her hands and asked nervously, "Old Zhao, that's it?" Yes, Director Xing always keeps his word. Since he said so, he'll definitely do it. Zhao Zijuan thought about the figure he just saw. He frowned and asked, "Did you see the person who was eating with Director Xing's family?" "I didn't dare to look carefully." Huang Kun shook her head. Zhao Zijuan took a breath. It should be Lu Jisheng's son. Why was he at Director Xing's house? And at this kind of family dinner? Chapter 242. Huang Kun opened her eyes wide. This was a relationship that couldn't be connected at all. Zhao Zijuan was still frowning. Yes, I'm not wrong. Their relationship must be special if they can attend this kind of family dinner. Lu Jisheng knows how to set up an ambush? What are you talking about? You don't have to have a close relationship with Director Xing's family. Didn't we eat together before? What if he's Jingjing's classmate? Huang Kun guessed. That makes sense. Zhao Zijuan stepped into the elevator and said after a moment of silence, "But the more I think about it, the more I feel that Lu Jisheng's son is very spirited. I'll look into his information tomorrow." When he returned home at night, the mysterious master in Bosqua's mind accepted the education obediently. Qifeng nagged, "Look at you. It's only been a few days and you still don't come home to sleep or eat." After 5 minutes, Lu Qing found a chance to interrupt. "Mom, here's the thing. Didn't I become the disciple of the martial arts club's coach? He has a friend in Xioshan who has been taking care of me. How can I refuse when an elder invites me to dinner?" Since Geezer sure officially recognized him as a disciple, he had briefly mentioned it to his parents. He didn't tell them his master's strength, but only said that he was very powerful. "Really?" Qifeng was doubtful. "Why would I lie to you? Why don't I give you his number, and you can call him yourself?" Lu Qing answered frankly, but in his heart he complained that if his mom really wanted his number he would tell her it was 1108 and ask for Director Xing. Well, Cheng is a grown-up. It's normal for him to have his own connections. Why do you ask so much? Lu Jisheng stopped Qifeng from asking. Qifeng glared at him. "What's wrong with me caring about my son? I don't need you to teach me. You don't care about anything. You don't ask about anything. You only care about eating and playing chess. Seeing that the fire had turned to his dad, Luqing spread out his hands and put on a helpless expression. He quietly slipped back to his room. In the next 2 days, he went to Ningxue and spent 2 days with his grandparents in the countryside, showing off all kinds of fruit trees to Yenjika. On Monday, he went to work on time and guided the training of Wu Ting, Zhang Qiufan and the other students. He also promised to leave some time for actual combat practice on Wednesday. On Tuesday morning, the day before Empress Dowager returned from a business trip, Luqing finally got the chance to train with his girlfriend after Zhang Xuming was shot dead in the border mountains. The two of them were in a secluded corner of Backwater Lake Park. As usual, most of the time, they were serious and focused. Occasionally, their eyes would meet, sweet and warm. Under such circumstances, Luqing would always think of the beautiful future he had hoped for. The more he trained, the more his force penetrated. He didn't try to withdraw in front of Yenjika. He wanted to surprise her only when he could do it without the help of the Jindan. Otherwise he would feel guilty and fake. In the blink of an eye, it was almost 8 o'clock. Yenjika put away her posture and panted, showing her dimples. "Chung, what are we going to eat for breakfast?" She was in high spirits and full of anticipation. Luqing had already made plans. He smiled and said, "Let's go to the Cloudwater realm you mentioned before?" "Okay, I'll take you there." Yenjika smiled sweetly. Luqing seized the opportunity and asked, "Ku, your parents are not at home. Is there anyone at home?" "No, my mom doesn't like outsiders at home. The cook and cleaning ants come at 11 o'clock and leave before dinner." Yenjika looked up and spat. "Why do you ask? What do you want to do?" "You said you would show me your childhood photos. It's a rare opportunity," Luqing answered with a smile. Yenjika rolled her eyes and snorted. "You haven't shown me your photos yet. You can show me mine at any time. My parents have regular working hours, unlike Empress Dowager." Luqing tried to bewitch the girl. Yenjika puffed up her cheeks and glanced at her boyfriend. "Okay, then let's go to my house after Cloudwater Realm." In fact, she also wanted to share her childhood photos with Luqing. She wanted to hear him praise her childhood. Luqing was excited and told her his plan. "I'll take a shower at home and change my clothes. That's troublesome." Yenjika pursed her lips and thought for a while. "How about you come to my house?" "But I don't have a change of clothes," Luqing asked eagerly. Yenjika chuckled. "Stupid. You can wear my dad's old pajamas first. I'll put your martial arts suit in the washing machine. It'll be dry before noon." As for the surveillance camera at home, she would delete it after Chung left. "Okay." Luqing didn't stand on ceremony at all, and agreed decisively. After that, he came up with a new idea. He asked with a smile, "Could you have cold rice and eggs at home?" "I think so. Auntie will clean them up at noon." Yenjika answered with uncertainty. Luqing suggested, "How about we don't go to Cloudwater Realm? I'll make egg fried rice for you." "You know how to make it?" Yenjika asked with surprise and suspicion. "Don't make some dark cuisine." "Of course. I only know how to make egg fried rice and noodles. I'm good at it." Luqing waved his arm deliberately. Yenjika bit her lips and said with bright eyes, "Then I'll look forward to it." Hee, egg fried rice made by Chung with love. After that, they jogged back to the villa area. Luqing looked at the entrance control and the security guards and observed the surrounding walls. He said seriously, "I'll find a blind spot and climb over it." If he and Ku went through the entrance control together, his father-in-law would know at night. And such a wall couldn't stop him at all. Yenjika blinked her long eyelashes and looked at Luqing blankly. She didn't seem to understand why he did that. After a few seconds, the girl came to her senses and burst into laughter. "Oh, Ching, you're so funny. Haha, my stomach hurts. Haha, you want to climb over the wall? What's wrong with that?" Luqing was confused. Yenjika managed to hold back her laughter and scolded him with her eyes full of tears. "What a joke. Idiot Chung." After that, she took out the key ring with the access card and handed it to Luqing. "Here you go." "What about you?" Luqing asked in surprise. Yenjika pursed her lips and answered seriously, "Swipe my face." She asked Lu Cheng to wait on the other side of the road and walk to the security booth with light steps. She smiled shyly and said, "Can you open the door for me? I forgot to bring the access card." The security guard had a deep impression of this beautiful girl and knew that she was indeed a resident of the community. When he saw her smile like a blooming flower, he was even more convinced. He quickly answered, "Okay, no problem. I'll open it right away." "Thank you." Yenjika smiled sweetly and secretly made a face to Lu Cheng. "Idiot Cheng." After she went in and sent a message, Lu Cheng took the access card and calmly walked to the gate of the community. He swiped the card and slowly passed through. The security guard did feel that he was a stranger, but it was not strange that the residents of the community often had relatives or friends who stayed temporarily. Following Yenjika's instructions, he turned around and came to a villa. The girl was sitting on the swing in the front garden and looking at him with a smile. "My dad made this when we first moved in." Yenjika proudly introduced it. Lu Cheng clicked his tongue. "Father-in-law knows carpentry? Of course my dad is awesome." Yenjika was used to Lu Cheng calling her father-in-law and mother-in-law shamelessly. Instead of being annoyed, she felt sweet. Lu Cheng looked around and said worriedly, "The security of your community is very ordinary. The entrance is very loose. I can't believe I got in so easily. It doesn't look like a rich community. My mom always says that. She always suggests that we ask my uncle's security company to do it. But you know, many people are too lazy to do it. But with Zhang Xuming's case, I think this matter will be passed soon. At that time, it will be difficult for some idiot to sneak in." Yenjika said with a gloating smile. She led her boyfriend to the front of the house, unlocked her fingerprint, opened the door, and found a pair of slippers for Lu Cheng. After putting on the slippers, Lu Cheng suddenly had an idea and picked up his martial arts shoes. "What are you going to do with them?" Yenjika closed the door and asked confusedly. Lu Cheng laughed. "I put them in the room. If I put them here, your parents will be exposed when they come back." "You're right." Yenjika nodded and suddenly understood. Then she looked at Lu Cheng with a faint smile. "Cheng, you seem to be very experienced. Tell me, did you go to other girls' houses often before?" "It's not me. It's Talker. I learned from his mistakes," Lu Cheng quickly explained. "You're also an experienced person in the future." Yenjika raised her arm and said seriously. While walking from the living room to the stairs, Lu Cheng deeply felt the difference between the Yen family and his own family. It was impossible to say that he didn't feel inferior. Fortunately, he was in a high-spirited stage and felt that no matter what the difference was, he could make up for it, so he didn't feel depressed. When he came to the second floor and entered the girls' boudoir, he saw pink, white, and all kinds of dolls. Big ones, small ones, cute ones, and weird ones. Yenjika took a step forward and rushed to the bedside. Blushing, she picked up the clothes and sundries scattered on the carpet and stuffed them into one of the wardrobes. Lu Cheng breathed in the familiar fragrance in the room and said with a smile, "I thought it would be very tidy." Of course, it was much tidier than his own room. "Humph, who tidies every day?" Yenjika slightly raised her head and looked to the side. At this moment, as the door closed, the atmosphere in the girls' boudoir became quiet, and suddenly there was an indescribable ambiguity. This was a real private space where no one would disturb. Yenjika's long black eyelashes trembled a few times. Like a flustered little white rabbit, she took out several photo albums from the bookshelf and didn't dare to look directly at Lu Cheng. She said, "I am going to take a shower first. You can look at the photos yourself." Lu Cheng resisted the impulse and nodded with a smile. "Okay." Hearing his answer, Yenjika turned her head and looked into his eyes. Her eyes became clear and soft again. "Except for my dad, you're the first man to enter this room. So I feel a little uncomfortable. It's not that I don't trust you. I understand." Lu Cheng smiled like a flower. His achievement of entering Ku's boudoir was achieved. Yenjika took out a change of clothes and went into the bathroom. Lu Cheng took a few deep breaths and focused on the photo album to prevent himself from thinking too much and being impulsive. This part of the album was of the girl between 3 and 7 years old. She was dressed more westernly than her peers, with a little baby fat, pretty and cute. But it could be seen that she was always in a bad mood. In many photos she looked quiet and gloomy. But even so, when she was not affected by the illness, she still tried to smile brightly and enjoy life. She was not afraid of death and was optimistic about life. Lu Qing took out his phone and took dozens of photos that were so cute that he couldn't take them anymore. Some of them were in princess dresses with straight bangs, some were in ponytails swaying, and some were staring at him innocently with wide eyes. At this moment, Yenjika came out of the shower and changed into a half-sleeved nightgown. Her body was steaming and fragrant. "It's your turn." Seeing Lu Cheng's eyes that looked like he was going to pounce on her, she turned her body and shyly said, "Go take a shower first. It's so dirty." "First?" Lu Cheng was delighted and nodded hard. "Okay." Yenjika didn't realize that there was something wrong with her choice of words. She said to herself, "Wrap yourself in a bath towel first. I'll find you my dad's old pajamas. He's taller than you, but it's almost the same." "Okay." Lu Qing walked into the bathroom. When he finished the shower, put on his boxers and came out wrapped in a bath towel. Yenjika happened to come in with a set of pajamas. Seeing Lu Cheng's two hairy legs, bare shoulders, and skin exposed by the bath towel, she giggled and said with a flirtatious look in her eyes, "Come on, give me a smile. Ching now looks like he's been touched by me." "Sure." Lu Qing chuckled. Taking advantage of the situation, he pounced on the girl and hugged her. Yenjika hurriedly supported her arms and looked to the side. First eat." "First?" Lu Qing kissed her and pulled away with great perseverance. He smiled and said, "It's time for you to see my ancestral skill of egg fried rice. I always feel like you're bragging." Yenjika touched the place where she was kissed and pretended to be disdainful. When she came out of the room with 2 sets of martial arts suits, Lu Qing quickly changed into his pajamas and went downstairs to the kitchen. He found the fridge and took out the cold rice and eggs. The sound of the washing machine was heard. Yenjika came back and watched Lu Qing skillfully beating and stirring the eggs with great interest. Her eyes sparkled a little bit. She didn't watch but walked over with a sense of participation. She focused on how to use the kitchen. In the end she said eagerly, "Chung, how about I mix 3 shreds? I remember there are still ingredients left from last night." "You cook, I mix. You know how to mix?" Lu Qing was surprised and happy. Yenjika pursed her lips and nodded seriously. "No. But aren't there so many recipes on the internet? I'm not stupid. Can't I follow them?" Lu Qing was a little nervous. "Then you can try." "Okay." Yenjika took out her phone and searched for recipes. She frowned and said, "How do you judge 5 grams and 3 grams? Feel it." Lu Qing answered honestly. "No, it's too unreliable." Yenjika knitted her beautiful eyebrows and looked up. Suddenly she cheered and said happily, "I'm so stupid. I can use tools." She turned and left the kitchen and went upstairs. "Tools?" Lu Qing said to himself in confusion. "What tools? Weighing tools in the kitchen?" After waiting for more than a minute, the girl rushed back with an object. Lu Qing looked at it and found it was the children's version of the experimental balance. "When I was a child, I liked chemistry very much. My dad gave me this." Yenjika showed her dimples and smiled sweetly. Then she carefully wiped the balance and weights and started to weigh accurately with the help of a bowl and spoon. Lu Qing was stunned. After a while he held back his laughter and said, "You're so strict." "Of course." Yenjika was not modest at all. Not long after, the smell of the egg-fried rice floated in the kitchen and made the girl's nose twitch. She clapped her hands and said, "I'm done. You try it." "Why me?" Lu Qing complained. He turned off the fire and divided the egg-fried rice into 2 portions. Then he picked up the chopsticks and picked up a few pieces. "Not bad," he praised with all his strength. "Although it's just average, at least it's edible, right?" Yenjika beamed with joy and proudly placed the cold dish on the table. Lu Qing followed closely behind her and brought the egg-fried rice and chopsticks to the table. "Well, it's delicious. I admit that you're a master of egg-fried rice." The girl ate a mouthful of rice and said happily and sweetly, Lu Cheng was about to say something when he suddenly heard the sound of a fingerprint unlocking the door. Yenjika sat up straight and looked over in horror. Thoughts flashed through Lu Cheng's mind as scenes after scenes flashed through his mind. Is it my father-in-law who came home? He looked at the pajamas he was wearing and thought to himself, I'm not going anywhere. If I said that I just came to take a shower, cook a meal and dry my clothes without doing anything bad, Uncle Yen, would you believe me? Chapter 243. I think most of them won't believe it. Lu Cheng was sure that no father would believe his explanation in such a setting, and wearing such clothes. Therefore, while he was thinking, he had already picked up the bowl and chopsticks. With a flick of his waist and a smooth burst of strength, he left his seat and dashed into the kitchen. Fortunately, Ka's kitchen was not an open type. Although Yenjika was frightened, she also stood up and rushed to the door, trying to attract attention, and buy time for Lu Cheng to hide. During this process, they didn't communicate, but they were so tacit and so similar. They were both calm in the face of danger, good at making decisions, and not resigned to their fate. Yenjika stepped forward lightly and agilely. In just a few seconds, she was at the other end of the living room. At this moment, the door was completely opened. A tall, thin, middle-aged man walked in, carrying a bag of food. He smiled at his daughter who was bouncing towards him. Have you had breakfast? I just passed by Qingyuan Street and thought that you liked to eat steamed buns, so I brought some back for you. Dad really came back at the last minute. Yenjika's heart was beating fast. She didn't dare to look back to see how Lu Cheng was hiding. She stepped forward and held Yen Kai's arm, smiling sweetly. Dad, you always surprise me. You are a model father. This time it was a shock. In the kitchen, Lu Cheng hid in the corner beside the refrigerator, listening to the conversation, controlling his heartbeat, and carefully muting his phone. It really is my father-in-law. He glanced at the kitchen knives and had a feeling that they would cut his body at any moment. Yen Kai was in his 40s. His eyes were clear, and his nose was high. He was a very handsome man. His youthful appearance had been preserved to this day, which added a bit of elegance to him. Time had not worn away his appearance, but instead made him more charming. Every time Yenjika saw her dad, she would feel that Empress Dowager was definitely a beauty lover. Fortunately, she had been tested by her dad and cousin's beauty when she was young, so she was immune to it. Otherwise, she might have missed the stupid Cheng. Yen Kai patted his daughter's hand and laughed. You are not growing up. You are still so spoiled. At this point, he sniffled and asked in confusion. It smells pretty good. Egg fried rice? Lu Cheng's back suddenly tensed up, and his heart seemed to skip a beat. Yenjika's mind went blank for a second. She looked up and came up with an idea. Dad, let me show you something. She generously pulled her father to the dining table, secretly rejoicing that her father's kung fu was only at the amateur level and did not know the listening skill. Otherwise, her heartbeat would have exposed everything. With a smile on his face, Yen Kai followed his daughter to the dining room and saw the bowl of egg fried rice and salad. While he was guessing with great interest, Yenjika pointed at the table, raised her head slightly, and said proudly, I did it. Yes, I made the coleslaw. You did it? Yen Kai looked at his daughter in surprise. He didn't expect that his precious little princess, who usually didn't do any household chores, was secretly learning how to cook. He smiled in relief. Are you planning to give us a surprise? Yenjika smiled but didn't say anything. She didn't want to lie to her father. For the first time in my life, I have to taste my daughter's cooking. Yen Kai smiled and walked to the kitchen to get another set of chopsticks. Hearing his footsteps approaching, Lu Cheng's mind went blank. He seemed to see himself full of kitchen knives. He looked around, urgently thinking about where to hide. In the cupboard? But I don't know the bone shrinking skill. On the ceiling? But I don't know the gecko wall climbing skill. If I force it, I'll leave scratches. Lu Cheng couldn't help but feel that his current fighting style wasn't adaptable enough. Yenjika was also startled, but she was still calm. She pulled her father and said, Sit down. Sit down. I'll get it for you. Okay. I'll enjoy it this time. Yen Kai was very happy. He sat at the dining table and smilingly watched his daughter go into the kitchen. This girl is getting better at taking care of people. Yinjika's back was to her father. She glanced around and saw Lucheng squatting beside the refrigerator, holding a bowl in his left hand and a pair of chopsticks in his right. It was very funny. She pursed her lips tightly, trying to hold back her smile. She nodded slightly at her boyfriend, then squatted down, opened the drawer, took out a set of bowls and chopsticks, washed them, then turned around and walked out. Lucheng didn't even dare to breathe. He only relaxed a little. He felt like a thief who was trapped in the house by the owner. Well, a thief who stole someone's precious daughter. This seemed to be more abominable than the former. Yinjika went back to the dining table, took some egg fried rice from her bowl, and gave it to her father. Then she stared at him and said, "Try this dish first. I spent a lot of effort on it." Kai laughed, picked up his chopsticks and picked up a few pieces. After tasting them carefully, he said, "It's okay. It'll be better after you get familiar with it. It doesn't seem like your first time." "Yes, it's my first time." Yinjika would be very happy to be praised by her father in normal times. But now she was very nervous. She was still thinking about the person in the kitchen. She wanted to smile but felt stiff. So she turned around and ran into the kitchen. She took out the children's balance and said as if she was presenting a treasure, "I've measured it accurately." Kai was stunned for a while before he reacted. He shook his head affectionately. "I believe it's your first time." "This is really my baby girl style." Yinjika smiled and said with her eyes curved, "I'll definitely do better on your birthday." Kai was comforted. He couldn't stop smiling and ate another mouthful of egg fried rice. After a while he said softly, "This is good. It's very good. It's very delicious. Is this your first time? It's better than your mother's." He paused and said with a smile, "Don't tell your mother that I said this before." "Don't worry. We're on the same side." Yinjika smiled sweetly and then answered honestly, "It's not my first time." "It's indeed not the first time. It's the 0th time." Clever Yinjika. Lucheng was stunned in the kitchen. "But my egg fried rice has been recognized by my father-in-law. Does this count as a successful step? If you want to marry a girl, you must first conquer her father's stomach." Before Kai said anything, the girl added, "I don't even know how I did it today. I may not be able to make it so delicious in the future. Dad, you can't dislike it." She was telling the truth. She really didn't know how Lucheng did it. She was also preparing herself for the future. "All newbies are like this. Your father was like this when he was young." Kai smiled contentedly. He ate a few mouthfuls of egg fried rice and salad for a long time, savoring the aftertaste. Yinjika, on the other hand, was eating nervously and tastelessly beside him. Kai put down his chopsticks and looked at his watch. "I have to go back to the hospital. Your mother will come back tomorrow. Let's go on a short trip around the city." "Okay." Yinjika didn't know if she was happy because of the family trip or because her father was finally going to work. She followed behind Kai and walked him to the door. She watched him walk out and waved at him. After closing the door, she relaxed and her legs were a little weak. It wasn't that she didn't dare to face her father for Lucheng, but she felt that their relationship was developing smoothly, sweet and beautiful, and they seemed to have a bright future ahead of them. There was no need to complicate things, which could easily lead to unbearable changes, such as the attitude of her father and the attitude of her grandparents. Walking back to the dining table, she was surprised to find that her boyfriend hadn't come out yet. She went into the kitchen and saw Lucheng leaning against the fridge, wiping cold sweat. He wouldn't sweat so much even if he fought in a challenge tournament. He was scared because of her father. Yinjika felt sweet and smiled. "Why are you still here? Do you like the kitchen? I'm afraid that your father will come back." Lucheng pretended to be mature. "Let's wait for another 10 minutes. Yinjika smiled and said, "Is this also Kai Zongming's experience?" "No, it's habitual caution." Lucheng returned to normal and made a self-deprecating remark. Fortunately, he put the martial arts shoes in Ku's room. Otherwise, his father-in-law would have caught us in the act, just now. "Little Ming, you didn't die in vain." Yenjika couldn't help but laugh. Then she sighed with mixed feelings. I'm sorry. It's not good to be so sneaky. Not only did I cheat my father, but I also wronged you. It made her feel guilty and sad. Lu Qing calmed down and solemnly promised, in the future, I'll come here openly. And to do that, stepping into the dance stage was the most basic thing. It wasn't that he couldn't marry Ku if he didn't reach the dance stage. Wasn't his father-in-law just an amateur fighter? But as a man, he had to work hard and try his best to overcome difficulties, so that the girl wouldn't feel embarrassed. At this moment, he was determined to fight for the martial arts and the dance stage. Do your best. Yenjika's eyes rippled as she said in a low voice. Then she nodded seriously and said, but now the most important thing is another matter. What? Lu Qing was a little confused. Yenjika smiled and showed her dimples. Teach me how to make egg fried rice. I want to give my father and Empress Dowager a surprise. You're right. Lu Qing realized. In the following time, the two of them relaxed and ate the egg fried rice, cold dish and steamed bun sweetly. Then Lu Qing steamed a new pot of rice and taught Yenjika step by step. Again and again, they rubbed each other's ears, touched each other's heads, and kissed each other passionately. To be honest, Lu Qing really wanted to go further in this completely private space. But considering that the girl had just experienced the shock of her father's return, and was not in a stable mood, he forced himself to hold back. Unknowingly, it was 11 o'clock. Yenjika was barely satisfied with her new egg fried rice. Alas, I only saw a few photos. Lu Qing said with some regret. Auntie is coming, I should go. Yenjika thought about how she was so focused on making out that the egg fried rice burned several times. She said with a reddish face, it's not like I can't come here in the future. At that time, she could hide in the room and not come out to cook. Even if her father and Empress Dowager suddenly came home, she wouldn't be discovered. I'm looking forward to it. Lu Qing imitated his girlfriend's tone and answered. After reluctantly parting, Lu Qing looked at the towering buildings in the villa area. Facing the sun in the sky, he stepped forward. There was an urgent and clear goal in his heart. That was to enter the dance stage. Chapter 244. Standing by the window and watching Lu Cheng's figure disappear at the end of the road, Yenjika bit her lip and resisted the urge to follow him out. She withdrew her gaze and sniffed. The aroma of egg fried rice filled the whole room. She picked up her phone and unconsciously smiled. Her fingers quickly typed a message to her boyfriend, who she had just separated from. It's all your fault. Every time I close my eyes, all I can think of is egg fried rice. Because the cold rice from last night was cooked by Lu Qing and turned into breakfast for 2 people, the following kitchen lessons could only be replaced by freshly steamed rice. Although the essence of the dish couldn't be fully understood, it was enough for her to master the basic skills of egg fried rice. Soon she received Lu Cheng's reply. Hee hee, every time I close my eyes, all I can think of is the burnt egg fried rice. Yenjika's cheeks flushed. She spat and clenched her teeth while typing on the keyboard. Pervert. Big pervert. She walked lightly into the study, turned on the computer, logged into the surveillance system, and began to search for videos related to Lu Qing. She planned to format them and not leave any trace. It's hard to guard against a thief in the house. It's not a big deal if a thief comes to steal the cabbage at home. The big deal is that the cabbage wants to follow him. When she saw Lu Qing carrying his martial arts shoes and tiptoeing up the stairs, Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. Her hand that wasn't holding the mouse rested on her chin. She actually watched the video seriously, as if she had forgotten her original purpose. There were no surveillance cameras in the bedroom, so the scene quickly switched to the kitchen. She watched as Lu Qing, dressed in pajamas, skillfully cracked eggs to start a fire and tossed a wok of fried rice. She watched as she busily weighed the seasonings with a child's balance. The girl changed her posture slightly, cupping her cheek with one hand. The look in her eyes grew softer and softer, like ripples of a rippling lake. Her heart felt warm and full. When the two of them sat side by side and enjoyed breakfast like newlyweds, Yenjika spat again and clicked the pause button. She stood up abruptly and ran upstairs. Back in her room, she took out her portable hard drive with large capacity. I have to copy and save the videos about Chung. She looked at them and moved them bit by bit. She couldn't help but laugh at Lu Cheng's silly look as he squatted beside the fridge with a bowl and chopsticks. She blushed and her eyes teared up, because the two of them were so engrossed in their intimacy that they burned a serving of egg fried rice. Even though she had quickly skimmed through these parts, she discovered many details that she hadn't noticed before from another angle. For example, when they were kissing passionately, Lu Cheng's hand was stroking her back. He had tried to move his hand closer to her body several times, but he had resisted the urge. Pervert! She cursed in a low voice. Her eyes were filled with both joy and anger. He really craves me, and he really respects me. But why do boys always like that kind of thing? Just as her thoughts were wandering, she heard the sound of a fingerprint unlocking the door. Yenjika suddenly sobered up. She quickly copied the remaining surveillance videos to her hard drive and reformatted the original ones. After finishing all this, she turned off the computer, walked out of the study, and smiled at the aunties. Auntie Huang, make 3 extra servings for lunch. I have a few friends coming over. One of them is a professional fighter. They all like your steamed Christian carp very much. Song Li Gushuang and Xing Jingjing were coming to visit later. They would interrogate her in detail about her secret relationship. Okay, I'll go buy the ingredients right away, the auntie in charge of cooking said with a smile. Yenjika pursed her lips and pretended to say casually, by the way, there's a lot of egg fried rice in the kitchen. Just throw it away. I'll use it for practice. The afternoon sun shone into the living room, making it hot and dry. Zhao Zijuan sat on the sofa with the air conditioner in his hand. He didn't turn it on for a long time. No one knew what he was thinking. Old Zhao. Huang Kun came out with the food and shouted in confusion. Didn't I ask you to turn on the air conditioner? What are you thinking about? The place where they worked was close to home. Huang Kun's work was more leisurely, so she would come back for lunch if she had nothing to do. Zhao Zijuan sighed and said with a wry smile, I'm thinking about the boy from the Lu family. Although I can't find out his relationship with Director Xing, I can see that he has a bright future. As long as there are no accidents, he will be rich in the future. He had already checked the general situation of Lu Cheng. Huang Kun hesitated and said, how about we let Qianqian meet Lu Yanwei? He's a good guy. Looks like the Lu family is going to be rich. No. Don't think about it. I've been a police officer for so many years and caught so many criminals. I have a good eye for people. Zhao Zijuan rejected his wife's proposal. Lu Yanwei is good in other aspects, but he's too frivolous and unstable. He refuses to do things in a down-to-earth way. It's hard to change this character. In the future, even if his younger brother is very capable, I'm afraid that he can't take care of him. Then why do you want to know about the boy from the Lu family? He's still in college. Huang Kun asked angrily. Zhao Zijuan stood up and walked to the table. He said, even if I can't ask him for help, I still need to be on good terms with him. Lu Jisheng and I have been friends since we were young. I need to keep in touch with him and his family more. If anything happens in the future, it's better to ask them for help than Lu Yanwei. You've been thinking about these things for years. Huang Kun shook her head. Zhao Zijuan sat at the table and said self-deprecatingly, I didn't understand before. I've been suffering. But in recent years I finally understand that it's really important to curry favor. In a small training field of the Gushan Martial Arts School, Lu Qing crossed his arms and watched Qin Rui's every move thoughtfully. Still stance was not something that could be mastered in a short time. After an hour of individual guidance, he would try and practice hard day after day. Occasionally he would have some questions, so he didn't want Qin Rui to waste too much money on this. In this hour of individual guidance, the focus was on the correction of the fighting style. Chu Weikai was a real professional ninth pin fighter. He was deeply immersed in tiger form and other sections. He had no problem teaching the fighting style and moves, but after all he was old and didn't have enough energy. The opportunities and number of people he could teach were limited. Most of the time, he had to rely on Dai Linfeng's help. Under such circumstances, Qin Rui's strength techniques, footwork, and punches were good. But when it came to the connection of moves, there were some problems. He was over 1.9 meters tall with long arms and legs. Many of his moves had to be adjusted correspondingly to make the connection smoother and more natural. But no one had ever pointed this out to him before. Good. Tiger hug and downward chop. This adjustment will make it easier for you to follow up later changes. Lu Qing nodded in approval. Qin Rui smiled bitterly. But it feels awkward to fight. Any change of habits is awkward. Practice more and try to make these adjustments into habits. Lu Qing smiled. One taught, the other practiced. Time passed quickly. Qin Rui was a little more familiar with the adjusted fighting style. He was more convinced by Lu Qing. When I'm completely familiar with it, I might be able to give Senior Dai a surprise. Qin Rui said smugly. Lu Qing smiled and didn't comment. Some things had to be tried by oneself to know where the gap was. After Qin Rui left, he drank the medicine soup he brought and started his own training. Thinking of the urgent and clear goal at noon, Lu Qing felt a breath of air pass through his chest. He was full of motivation. Thunderclouds filled his mind. His stomach rumbled. His muscles tightened and compressed. His punches and kicks were accompanied by the sound of wind and thunder. This time, the effect of his training was better and better. He felt like he was getting twice the result with half the effort. However, he still couldn't find his own martial arts will. To be more precise, he didn't know what martial arts will was. The desire to win, the unshakable will, and the will to enjoy without lust. He didn't lack any of these. But what the hell was martial arts will? Confused, Lu Qing ended his training and made a call. He decided to ask his master for advice. Hey brat, what's the problem this time? Geezer sure coughed. Lu Qing answered honestly. Master, I'd like to ask you what martial arts will is. Well, that's a good question. Geezer sure laughed. He had been waiting for his disciple to call and ask for advice. Taking the initiative to tell that brat was different from waiting for advice. The latter would be much better. Ha ha ha. He paused and said slowly. To put it bluntly, it's the training of the heart and mind. Only with a firm heart can you control the body, control the details, and influence the spirit, qi blood, and force to complete the withdraw attempt. It's similar to the feeling when you enter meditation, but the latter can't be done in a fight. That's why I said that with this as the foundation, it will be much easier for you to enter the Dan stage. As for how to be firm in one's heart, and how to possess the martial will, the experts of each sect and faction have their own understanding and path. They are not completely the same. As for me, I'm closer to the military, so my understanding is also related to them. Let me give you an example. Do you know what the biggest difference between the modern army and the modern army is? No. Lu Qing didn't know anything about this. Geezer sure answered seriously, which was rare for him. Modern armies use strict discipline and cruel punishment to paralyze soldiers, making them fear military discipline more than death. Modern armies, on the other hand, dare to face death directly because they know what they are fighting for. Why did the army that created miracles time and time again complete the long march? Why did they have a steel-like will? Why did they still move forward after encountering so many difficulties? It's not because they were born great, it's not because they are monsters. It's because they have understood why they are fighting for, and how much they are willing to pay for it. Many people always say that they can learn the spirit of the long march and learn the will that is nothing to them. That's just on the surface. They don't see the essence at all. They don't dare or are unwilling to ask why they and not any other army at that time did it. The source of their strength, spirit, and will is that they know what they are fighting for. Lu Qing was shocked. He had never seen things from this angle before. When his master hung up the phone, he was still muttering to himself, "What are they fighting for?" Chapter 245. Lu Qing stood there, repeating his words at the beginning to torture himself. The reason why he fought was not something he said casually, nor was it something he did on impulse, nor was it a choice he made under the pressure of external forces without knowing his true thoughts. According to what his master said just now, "Are you willing to sacrifice your life for this? Are you willing to die for this generosity? Are you willing to suffer for this for decades? Of course, I'm not asking you to do it now. We're not like the Buddhist Zen sect, which focuses on epiphany and can do it immediately after understanding it. Just like the Iron Army, when they first understood why they were fighting, they just understood. It was impossible for them to be willing to sacrifice themselves for it on the spot. Only through experience, practice, and hammering could they sublimate their understanding into ideas and into perseverance. Only then could they do things that ordinary people find inconceivable. This is also the reason why many dance stage martial artists are stagnant. They think that once they find the will of martial arts and the source of power, they can do it once and for all. As a result, they are gradually influenced by all kinds of temptations and forget their initial spirit. They can't persevere, let alone sublimate to the level that I mentioned before. The Long March was indeed a retreat. However, as the saying goes, it is hard to find a general who can win a battle, but it is also hard to find a general who can keep the army in order despite defeat. A defeated army is easily defeated, is the truth proven by thousands of years of practice. When winning, morale can be maintained by hope, wealth, honor, military discipline, and religious beliefs. However, when defeat comes, all of these often become useless. Escaping is instinct, hiding is instinct, and staying away from danger is also instinct. There are very few commanders who can keep the army in order for dozens or hundreds of miles when they are defeated and chased. However, under the circumstances of being chased and intercepted from all sides and the environment is extremely bad, the army actually persisted for more than 20,000 miles without dispersing or collapsing. Not only that, but they had also condensed a steel-like will. This was definitely not something that could be achieved by just going to a certain place and living a good life. The only explanation was that everyone had the same desire. Everyone knew what they were fighting for and how much they were willing to pay for it. There must be a kind of spirit shining and connecting heaven and earth. Then what am I fighting for? Why should I face the difficulties and dangers of the road of martial arts? Lu Qing was lost in thought. The thirst for victory? No, I would feel joy from victory and pain from defeat, but I wouldn't be willing to pay too great a price for it. Not only would I be willing to die, I wouldn't even be willing to be crippled. There would be duels again and again, and even if I lost, I could always try again. But in a battle of life and death, no one would be willing to die. It was a passive choice. Pure love for martial arts? The yearning to reach the peak of martial arts? No, I do like martial arts very much. But before I picked up the Jindan, I didn't think it would be a big deal if I couldn't practice martial arts. After I picked up the Jindan, I only had a little more longing for the future. I had a little more hope for becoming a mighty one with physical invulnerability and getting a title in the future. Just longing and hope. Could they earn a lot of wealth and improve their social status? No, these were very good, but one had to be alive and healthy to enjoy them. Similarly, not to mention dying generously, he wasn't even willing to bear being crippled. Then why did I start learning martial arts? Lu Qing recalled the past and asked himself blankly. The answer was very simple, and it made him want to laugh. It was purely to get close to Yen Zheka, to woo the girl he had been secretly in love with for a long time. I'm such a vulgar person. Lu Qing shook his head and laughed. He suddenly remembered the anticipation, nervousness, and lack of confidence at that time. Then more images came to his mind. When leaving the villa area, the eagerness to walk into Yen Zheka's house openly, the sweetness of one holding a wok of fried rice, the other weighing the vegetables, and finally enjoying it side by side. The inner strength that drove him to Zhengke County without regard for anything else in the heavy rain. The certainty of dreaming of the future together and planning their lives together. The tacit understanding of giving each other rings and promising each other a lifetime of solemnity and joy. In the hotel room, when he woke up in the morning, Ko hooked her arms around his neck and asked for breakfast like an old married couple. The torture of enduring all kinds of torture, the exhaustion of the tremor massage, the surprise of having a kiss mark on his mouth after he fell asleep, the excitement of their first kiss and the feeling of his heart beating violently under the street lights beside Weishui Lake, the surprise of Ku taking the initiative to reach out her hand, and the memory of the first time they held each other's hands but lost their direction. Hearing Ku's soft but honest words of fear and apprehension, He felt pity and moved, the nervousness and uneasiness after the confession, and the ecstasy and brilliance after witnessing the reply of, "Let me be happy for 5 minutes first." The excitement of receiving Ku's blessing call on his birthday made him want to roar twice. The warmth of the new year on New Year's Eve when they listened to each other's breathing, the satisfaction of the first cheer in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament from the girl he loved, and the burst of strength, because of it. Because they were in the honeymoon period, there were expectations every day, endless topics to talk about and endless joy to feel. Although Lu Qing liked to collect and record the traces of the past, he didn't have the time or thought to reminisce about it. Until now, when the memories flashed, he realized that he and Yenjika had been through so much, and his feelings in his heart had changed a lot. This was like the tempering and sublimation of the martial arts will that his master had mentioned. In the beginning, he admired Ku because of her looks and her legendary good character. She was the perfect girl in his imagination. Therefore, when he confessed to her, he didn't dare to say that he loved her. It seemed that he didn't have the courage to say it. He only said that he liked her very much. But now, after merging with the past bit by bit, into his memory, flesh and blood, into his life, Lu Qing suddenly felt that he really fell in love with Yenjika. He fell in love with the girl who was willing to communicate with him, fell in love with the girl who was sometimes more rational, and fell in love with the Coach Yen, who was soft on the outside but tough on the inside. At this moment, his heart was filled with all kinds of emotions because of those scenes. His heart was filled with all kinds of feelings, and he was willing to challenge everything for this beautiful feeling. From this to the other, the little touches hidden in his memory were all clear. That was the white hair of his father who gave up his dignity and ran around tirelessly. That was his unspoken and silent love. That was his mother's long-winded words full of concern. That was the bitterness that she struggled to maintain by setting up a street stall. That was the lie that they didn't like to eat meat. That was the love that they had given over and over again. Lu Cheng's eyes were suddenly wet, and his heart was overflowing with energy. He vaguely understood what he wanted and what he wanted to do. Protect. This is the life that I want to protect with everything I have. To protect is not to protect, but to make myself better and better, so that the people I love can also be better and better, so that they don't suffer pain and danger. Lu Qing took out his mobile phone, logged into QQ, entered the collection, and clicked on the first voice message. A soft, clear, and familiar voice echoed in his ears. Lu Qing. Lu Qing. Lu Qing, you can do it. Lu Qing, you can do it. He listened to it over and over again, and the corners of his mouth opened little by little. Finally, he glanced at the ring on his left hand, rubbed it, and quietly closed his eyes, feeling the surging and turbulent power in his body. For them, I am willing to face difficulties and not afraid of danger. For them, I dare to challenge uncertainty and disregard myself. He put away his mobile phone, and once again got into a fighting stance. Bang bang bang. Seabed quake, mountain smash quake, one move after another. During this process, he only felt that his heart was filled with the emotions just now, and the power just now. It seemed that there were no other distracting thoughts, clear and transparent, both inside and outside. Once the heart was clear, the mind was right. His spirit seemed to penetrate through his whole body, reaching every detail, and vaguely controlling them. With the influence of the internal training method and the medicinal effect of the medicinal soup, he penetrated the strength, making his muscles, bones, and joints crackle. This was very similar to the state of great success in meditation, but Lu Qing only maintained it for a few minutes before he lost the feeling of having the power in his heart. His martial will was to protect. It came from the bits and pieces of his daily life, from the various feelings and emotions he had accumulated in the past. There was no need for him to ask for it, nor did he need to go through any arduous process to understand and discover it. However, he still had to polish and temper this martial will. He had to put this martial will into practice, and then strengthen it through practical experiences. It was just like how there were definitely many people who felt that they loved their parents and family, but there were relatively few who could truly persevere in doing so. However, in any case, Lu Qing questioned his heart for the first time, found the initial source of his power, and understood his martial arts will. Whoever dares to hurt the people I love, whoever dares to destroy my beauty, I am willing to fight against them at all costs. He exhaled, overjoyed, and took out his mobile phone to call his mother. Hello, Chung. Why are you suddenly calling me? Are you not coming back for dinner again? Are you not coming back to sleep at night? Qifeng's voice suddenly rose. Lu Cheng's eyes were hot, and he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Mom, what are you thinking about? I'm just. He was going to say that he suddenly missed her and wanted to give her a massage. But when the words came to his mouth, he knew that his mother would definitely be frightened and suspect that something had happened to him. So in the end he just played it down and said, I just suddenly felt like eating fried eel. You child, you should have said so earlier. At this time, alas, I'll go to the market to have a look. Qifeng answered grumpily, but she still agreed. After hanging up, Lu Qing called his father again. Hello Qing, what's up? Lu Jisheng asked in confusion. Lu Qing lowered his head and smiled. Dad, I remember that you have finished your Ningxue Daku original proof wine, right? Yes, you have connections? Don't bother your friends too much. It's okay if you can't get it. Lu Jisheng smiled. He remembered that he had made original proof wine during the spring festival. Lu Qing felt that his father wanted it but didn't want to waste his favor, so he smiled and said, Don't worry, it's easy. With his current social circle, it couldn't be easier to make the Ningxue Daku original proof wine. Okay. Lu Jisheng hung up the phone and couldn't help but hum a song. My son is becoming more and more filial. After calling his parents, Lu Cheng's expression became gentler, and he called Yen Zhika with a smile. Yen Zhika was being interrogated by her 3 best friends in the room, when she suddenly heard her phone ring. She picked it up and answered the call in surprise and astonishment. Chung? I think I found my own martial arts will. Lu Qing didn't hide his joy. Really? Yen Zhika seemed to be happier than him. She was rarely excited. What is it? Her abnormality immediately attracted the attention of Gu Shuang and others. Except for the colder Xing Jingjing, the other 2 winked at each other, believing that it was Lu Qing calling. Protect. Lu Qing said concisely. Yen Zhika looked up and asked him thoughtfully, You're right. Protect? Lu Qing didn't explain the specific meaning of protection. Looking at the sunlight outside, he shouted with a slightly red face, Ku? Yes? Yen Zhika didn't understand. Lu Qing cleared his throat and laughed in a low voice. I love you. Chapter 246. Yen Zhika was caught off guard and was confused. She was not prepared for Lu Cheng's sudden confession. She was neither embarrassed nor happy, but more confused and frightened. Why did Cheng call me and say I love you? Lu Cheng could predict the girl's reaction. Thickening his skin, he smiled and said gently, I was inspired by my training. Okay. Yen Zhika still felt a little confused. The atmosphere was not right. Even between lovers, words like confessions would be awkward. Lu Qing smiled, imagining the girl's cute face. He coughed and said, I'll continue my training. You can have a good chat with Song Li and the rest. Okay. Yen Zhika put down her phone and saw the teasing looks of her friends. Song Li was still feeling touched and envious about how Lu Cheng had racked his brains to bring Xiaoshan delicacies to her friend from such a faraway place. She felt that her Du Liu was not doing a good enough job. At this moment, she was the first to speak. You haven't been apart for long and he can't help calling you? Yen Zhika wrinkled her nose and snorted. Can't he call me? Cheng had found his martial will in the initial stage. Thinking of this, she was stunned for a moment. The short conversation just now replayed in her ears. I think I've found my martial arts will. Protect. I love you. I was inspired by my training. After a moment, Yen Zhika raised her head slightly and opened her eyes wide. She connected the context and suddenly understood the origin of the words, I love you, and the thousands of words it represented. I love you. Protect. She felt like some kind of emotion was exploding in her heart. She couldn't help but hold the pillow tight. She couldn't wait to call Lu Qing back and tell him the secret of her feelings. She couldn't wait to rush to Gushin Martial Arts School and feel his body temperature. At this moment, Seeing the light in her eyes and her expression, Song Li Gushuang, and the others suddenly felt that there was no need to ask anything. The answer was written clearly. After more than a minute, Xing Jingjing suddenly said, I'm going to participate in the youth tournament at the end of the month. Yenjika came back to herself. Sister Jingjing, why? Xing Jingjing nodded slightly. I want to see if he has the ability to protect you. Yenjika was speechless for a moment. After that incident, Sister Jingjing not only started to hate men, but also awakened a terrifying supernatural ability. Although she had just entered the professional 9th pin, to be able to stand out in such a strong martial arts school like Huahai University, one could imagine her actual strength. Bang, 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 bang. The airflow around Lu Qing kept exploding. His muscles, bones, and joints responded with crackling sounds. It was only after he tried to use the circulation of the Jindan that he was satisfied and ended the afternoon's training. In the days to come, he would temper and improve his martial will step by step. He would train his martial arts down to the smallest detail, so that the force in his body was almost as one. This was not something that could be comprehended in a single moment. Calm. Idiot. Yenjika typed 2 words with a blushing and smiling emoji. She didn't need to say anything. Lu Cheng's lips curled up. His heart was filled with warmth and sweetness. This is what I want to protect. This is the source of my strength. He walked out of the training ground and went to the locker room. Suddenly, he saw a familiar inner disciple coming to him. Brother Lu, do you have time? Su Rongfei smiled. Lu Qing didn't answer directly. He asked in surprise, what's the matter? Su Rongfei explained respectfully. I want to ask for 2 hours of private tutoring. I saw Qin Rui's training just now and found that he really changed and improved. Okay, tomorrow then. Tomorrow afternoon. Lu Qing agreed readily. Tomorrow, Empress Dowager would go back to Xiushan. Ku and her family would go on a short trip in the surrounding area. As for the private tutoring fee, of course, there was no discount. Satisfied with his feeling of being a master, Gizershur drank a little wine happily. Suddenly he was startled and muttered, didn't that brat want to combine things of cultivation? Why did he ask about the will of martial arts so soon? Did he give up trying and take the path of combining supernatural ability and martial arts? Gizershur was full of curiosity. He wanted to know what situation his disciple was in, and what progress he had made. But as a master, how could he lower himself to take the initiative to ask? He coughed twice and decided to wait for Lu Cheng's good news or further questions. He waited for a long time. In the evening, after having dinner with Yen Kai, watching TV and chatting for a while, Yenjika finally felt relieved and put away her uneasiness. Judging from Dad's usual behavior, he didn't find anything unusual at that time. He didn't find Chung in the kitchen. Phew, I've escaped this time. I'll learn my lesson and try to keep him in my room. Well, if Dirty Tong was here, she would definitely say that my way of thinking was wrong. Shouldn't a normal person's thoughts be, learn your lesson and try not to let Ching sneak into my house in the future? After watching the news, Yen Kai went into the study. He didn't come out until it was almost 10 o'clock. He habitually picked up his phone and called Ji Mingyu to report on the day's situation. While talking, he happily said, Ku has grown up and learned how to cook to surprise us. Ji Mingyu slid her finger on the touch screen of the computer and said in surprise, learn how to cook. Why didn't I see any signs of this? Hee, I found it by accident. When I passed by Qingyuan Street this morning, I thought that Ku liked the old steamed buns, so I bought some for her. Then I saw that she made egg fried rice and 3 shreds of cold salad. Actually, they were all okay. The 3 shreds of cold salad was a little green, but the egg fried rice was really good. Yen Kai recalled the surprise in the morning and described it happily. Ji Mingyu was stunned and said, you went back at the last minute and found it by accident? The 3 shreds of salad was average, but the egg fried rice was pretty good? That's right. Otherwise, I think with Ku's character, she wouldn't have revealed it until my birthday. Yen Kai comforted him. Ji Mingyu covered her eyes and almost cried because of her husband's stupidity. Your cabbage is about to be taken away by someone else. Yenjika put her legs on the doll and played with her phone leisurely while replying to Lu Cheng. The corners of her mouth were curled up, full of smiles. At this moment, the phone rang and vibrated. She was surprised to see that there was an incoming call. Empress Dowager. Her heart skipped a beat. Didn't I just greet Empress Dowager before dinner? Picking up the phone, Yenjika tried to calm herself down and said in a normal tone, Mom. I heard from your dad that you tried to cook by yourself at home today. You made egg fried rice and 3 shreds of salad? Ji Mingyu asked with a faint smile. Yenjika suddenly shivered and thoughts ran through her mind. In the end, she chose to confess. Stammering, she said, Mom, that was the orange. Lu Qing made it. I made 3 shreds of salad. He just came to cook for me and took a shower. He didn't do anything else. With Empress Dowager's wisdom and experience, she should have noticed something was wrong with her advantage of knowing the inside story. Hearing her daughter's confession, Ji Mingyu felt much better. She sighed and said with a smile, Your father is so happy. He thinks that you did it to surprise him. Sai, you have to practice hard when you go back and really do it for him. You can't let him be happy for nothing. Her heart ached for her husband. I've been practicing egg fried rice for the whole morning just for him. Yenjika quickly expressed her attitude. She felt quite guilty towards her father. Ji Mingyu returned to the topic and laughed. Lu Qing didn't listen to me and told you that I saw him? Otherwise, Ka wouldn't have confessed so easily just now. That guy seems to be a henpecked husband. Yes. Yenjika answered in a low voice and then argued for Lu Qing. This is the most basic honesty between 2 people. Oh, you're not married yet. You're already helping an outsider? Ji Mingyu was annoyed and amused. You said he came here all morning and did nothing but take a shower and cook for you? Mom, Yenjika certainly knew what Empress Dowager wanted to ask. She blushed. He was teaching me how to cook egg fried rice. We know what to do. I won't say anything. You're more stubborn than I was, and I believe you know what to do. But how many men can stop in this kind of thing? He keeps asking you to do it step by step. Won't you be soft-hearted? Won't you compromise? Ji Mingyu decided to talk to her daughter frankly about that kind of thing. She couldn't let her suffer because she didn't know enough. Unlike other parents, Ji Mingyu was more open-minded and liked to communicate frankly. Yenjika was like her in this aspect. Yenjika said shyly, Mom, why do you keep talking about this? And Chung is not the kind of person you're talking about. Okay. I won't say it. I just want to remind you to take good care of yourself and think twice before you act. Ji Mingyu said helplessly. Just from the few words just now, she could tell that her daughter was deeply in love with her. On the morning of July 22nd, Lu Cheng was practicing by the lake in People's Park. In the past 2 weeks, he had absorbed strength from all kinds of emotions and beautiful things of the past, gathered his willpower, and practiced Thunder Zen internally. With the help of the medicinal soup, he had gradually practiced martial arts to the smallest detail. He only needed to practice a little more, and he would be able to integrate the strength of his whole body into one. In the past 2 weeks, Yenjika and her parents went on a 4-day trip to the surrounding areas. Then, she accompanied her grandparents who came to Xiushan for a week. With Empress Dowager's arrangement from time to time, she and Lu Qing could only practice together, go on dates and see each other. Their inner desires couldn't be satisfied at all. When this feeling accumulated, she had to fly to Jiangnan. She was congenitally deficient, and her family was worried that something would go wrong when practicing the internal training method. Therefore, she had to practice with her grandparents to get through the initial difficult stage. This time, she was gone for at least 10 days. Lu Qing had to integrate the pain of lovesickness into his punches and feet. He used QQ calls and video chats to relieve the pain. In his free time, he surfed the internet, browsed the forums, and met with Jiang Fei, Qin Rui, Qing Qili, and Tao Xiaofei. In the martial arts club, with Qin Rui's good example, 5 inner disciples had received 12 hours of private instruction. Wu Ting and other students also had rosy cheeks, flexible legs, and strong bodies. At this time, the youth tournament was about to begin. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.